for purpose, and we cannot ignore the risk of social instability if water shortages were spread. Governments and leaders around the world need to focus on our struggling water supplies now, before it's too late. The inquiry was presented by me, Rajan Datar, and produced by Phoebe Keane.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC.
If I should leave you, try to remember the good times. Warm days filled with sunshine and just a little bit of rain. And if you look back, try to forget all the bad times, lonely, blue and sad times, with just a little bit of rain. Yeah. And if I look back, I will remember the good times. Warm days filled with sunshine and just a little bit of rain.
I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. Thanks for joining us live on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. So we do wake up in Manitoba, still waiting for this snow to come to Winnipeg, although Westman has already seen some highways close and open, and we're all expecting still this 15 to 25 centimeters of snow, at times heavy, and in Winnipeg 5 to 10. So we'll see when this moves here and how fast it might come as we watch the impending storm system across southern Manitoba. So welcome to the day. It is Wednesday morning. It's February 18th, and we're on air with the morning show until 8:37 a.m. Let's say good morning to the team. Corey Funk is here directing the program, and he's going to be covering your morning commute. Also, Abby Adeyemi is in, our senior tech on the show, and Abby covers weather throughout the morning. In addition, Mr. Darren Marash is in our control room, producing our YouTube stream. The show streams live. If you're watching there, please do. Let's get to Heather Wells. She's here at 2 minutes to 6 with our headlines and always starts our day officially. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, instead of news headlines, I'll give you a little bit of a weather headline. I was just speaking with Chris Stammers at Environment and Climate Change Canada, asking, where is this snow?
Yeah.
And what they weren't really counting on was how warm our temperatures are. So south of Winnipeg, places like Steinbach had a lot of freezing rain overnight. And in Winnipeg, southern parts of the city did see some freezing rain, but the temperatures are going to start to drop off, and we will see that snow begin in an hour or two. Already, Morden has seen about 13 centimeters. There's also quite a bit in Portis La Prairie. So the snow is coming, and it is going to be a slow start to it and a slow duration. We expect to see the snow continuing into Thursday. So I'll be back with more Manitoba news and more on the weather coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
So we'll continue to watch this, as Heather mentioned. And lots coming up on the show otherwise besides the weather. Let's talk about that for a few minutes before World Report, where we'll talk about strengthening strengthening international trade ties. Yesterday, you heard about the large delegation, one of the largest to be down in Mexico. One of the people there is a Manitoba business that's trying to make some connections on this federal trade mission. So we'll hear more about their business and what they're doing down there. In addition, we're going to get into the curling controversy today. Team Canada touched the rock, didn't touch the rock. Does it matter? Stay tuned.
On cue.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. Chris Bowers is an acclaimed composer and pianist whose Oscar-nominated scores include Green Book and The Color Purple. He'll be here to talk about the career advice Kobe Bryant gave him that he still carries, and why working on his new film GOAT felt personal and freeing.
And so it was a really fun challenge.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Mark Zuckerberg will testify today at a high-profile trial in California. He's the head of Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And this is his first time appearing before a jury to address allegations his social media platforms harm children and teens. The landmark trial is focusing on social media addiction. Willie Lowry is in our Washington bureau. And Willie, tell us more about this trial.
This case really centers on one question. Did social media giants Meta and Google, through their various platforms, create intentionally addictive and harmful apps for children? The plaintiff in the case, known only as Kaylee or KGM, and her mother have accused the tech companies of intentionally creating addictive platforms that caused her to develop a host of mental health issues, including suicidal thoughts. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify later today. He's appeared before Congress many times to address the safety of his platforms and even apologized to families of people negatively impacted by social media. But this will be the first time he appears before a jury. Meta says it disagrees with the allegations in the lawsuit.
Willie, it is being called a landmark trial. What is at stake here?
So this is the first of more than 1,500 other pending lawsuits to go on trial. The results could have profound implications. If the jury sides with Kaylee, the plaintiff, it could set a precedent for how social media companies are held accountable and potentially cost them billions of dollars in settlements.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Late Show host Stephen Colbert is taking another shot at his soon-to-be former employer, CBS. He's accusing the broadcaster of pulling one of his interviews out of fear of the U.S. federal regulator.
I'm just so surprised that this giant global corporation would not stand up to these bullies.
Colbert interviewed Texas Senate Democratic candidate James Tallarico, but it did not air on television. Colbert says CBS lawyers raised concerns about an FCC rule requiring equal airtime for political candidates.
There has long been a very famous exception to that rule, and that exception included talk shows, interviews with politicians. We looked, and we can't find one example of this rule being enforced for any talk show interview, not only for my entire late-night career, but for anyone's late-night career going back to the 1960s.
CBS says it did not prohibit the interview. It only gave legal guidance, but it has been accused of caving to political pressure in the past. Colbert's show will be canceled after May 21st. Palestinians in Gaza are marking the start of Ramadan, the holiest month in Islam. It comes amid a fragile ceasefire and devastation from the Israel-Hamas war. Gaza still faces severe food shortages and other medical supplies. Cameron McIntosh has more.
Prayers mark the beginning of the sacred month of Ramadan. In Gaza, the first after 2 years of war. In a market near Gaza City, Ahmad Faraj says nothing feels normal. Many vendors have full shelves. Fruits, vegetables, sweets, festive staples of Ramadan. But Faraj says most struggle for the basics. The prices are high for the main products: flour, sugar, cereal, all food supplies. The 4-month ceasefire is allowing food aid in, slowly, but not near enough, driving up prices.
We have managed to push back the threat of famine.
But many are still getting by on just a meal a day, says Sean Hughes, country director for the UN's World Food Program.
We need better humanitarian access. So we need all the crossings into Gaza to be open and to be open predictably.
Right now, no signs of that happening. Despite it all, some talk of chasing Ramadan vibes. Mohamed Al Najir slices several long slits up and down an old aluminum drink can. Pushing down, it flares out in the middle, a makeshift Ramadan lantern. It makes me happy, he says, despite the war, the pain, the strikes. He's stringing up dozens, being as festive as he can under a precarious ceasefire. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Negotiators trying to reach a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia say today's talks have ended, but some progress has been made. Rustem Umurov is Ukraine's lead negotiator.
Ukraine remains constructive. The ultimate objective is unchanged, a just and sustainable peace.
He says a number of issues were clarified at these U.S.-mediated talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told reporters the negotiations were difficult, but both sides have agreed to meet again. The next big employer in Newfoundland and Labrador could be the defense sector. Industry leaders say the province has been quietly punching above its weight for years. As Ryan Cook reports, the region could benefit from Ottawa's plans to spend more.
We know that the world has changed and that Canada must change with it.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is promising a new path for defence spending, one that will see 70% of federal defence contracts awarded to Canadian companies within a decade. Welcome news in Canada's most eastern province.
This is relevant for us and we're ready to go.
Megan K. Fowlo heads up the Co-Innovation Centre in St. John's, a massive 54,000 square foot facility where companies work together to reach scale, including a growing number in aerospace and defence.
Companies in Newfoundland and Labrador are already working in those spaces. We've already developed those capabilities. We have infrastructure in place to be able basically to be ready to respond to what they've laid out.
The federal government projects 125,000 additional jobs in the defence sector as spending ramps up over the next 10 years. About 10,000 currently work in the defence sector in the 4 Atlantic provinces. Victoria Belbin, CEO of Atlantic Canada Aerospace and Defence, expects to see that number grow considerably under this new strategy.
It's a very unique region. We're small, but we're very mighty, and you can see that in the numbers.
For Newfoundland and Labrador, a province with economic challenges and geographic advantages, Belbin says the potential is huge, as long as the commitment from Carney is met with real action. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
The election is still 2 years away, but Sara Duterte says she will run to be president of the Philippines.
I offer my life, my strength, and my future in the service of our nation.
Duterte is currently vice president, but she is in a bitter power struggle with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. They were running mates in 2022, but had a falling out soon after their landslide win. Duterte is the daughter of former President Rodrigo Duterte. He is now being held in The Hague to face charges of crimes against humanity during his violent war on drugs. Some former flight attendants are urging a BC court to reject a multi-million-dollar settlement with WestJet. It is worth $4.5 million. Female flight attendants launched the class action lawsuit. They allege the airline failed to protect them from harassment. Lindsay Duncombe has more on the hearings that begin today.
That's an insult.
Andrea Zimmerman is a former WestJet flight attendant. She is one of 8 class members asking a judge not to approve the deal reached between the airline and lawyers for a class of 3,458 female flight attendants working between 2014 and 2021. Zimmerman believes there are others who aren't happy with the terms.
They're terrified to come forward. They don't believe that WestJet will do anything to make their work safety any better.
The objectors calculate once lawyers' fees are deducted, each class member would receive between $700 and $1,000. WestJet would not admit liability under the agreement. The lawsuit alleges WestJet didn't live up to its contract with female flight attendants by failing to implement and maintain an adequate anti-harassment program. It was launched by former flight attendant Magdalena Lewis in 2016. She alleged the airline did not support her after Lewis says she was sexually assaulted by a pilot on a layover. In an affidavit, she said she had hoped more could be achieved for the class, but agreed to the settlement after consultation with her lawyers and the mediator. In court documents, WestJet said the airline agreed to the settlement to avoid the expense, inconvenience, and distraction of further litigation. The airline also agreed to hire a third-party consultant to conduct a workplace assessment. WestJet did not respond to a request for an interview, neither did lawyers for the flight attendants. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. We've been waiting for some weather to move into the province today. Heather will have an update in a moment. There are some big flakes coming down in downtown Winnipeg right now. This hour on the show, though, let's turn our attention to what is coming up on 89.3. Mark Carney wants to use, as you've been hearing, more military money to maximize the economy. We're going to get some reaction to the Prime Minister's build-at-home defense strategy. We have a full interview digging into specifically what that could mean. In addition, this hour, ads will soon come to some ChatGPT users. Our tech columnist this morning is going to talk about how to navigate the future of advertising in AI, so stay tuned for that. And then a little bit later this hour, we are going to talk more about what is happening in the world of obituary writing. Stay with us. Well, as mentioned, as Heather put it perfectly before 6, a lot of us in Winnipeg woke up and went, hang on, where's the snow? What's going on? And you have some up-to-date information about the weather system, Heather.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, I was really surprised, pleasantly so, when I woke up and see the streets are still dry. Here is what Chris Starmers at Environment and Climate Change Canada says.
A lot more warm air with this system than was forecast or that models had as well. So that can kind of lower amounts.
And so that snow that we were anticipating last night didn't materialize, although there was rain south of Winnipeg, places like Steinbach. And there is snow this morning. Morden has about 13 centimeters so far, Portage la Prairie also with snow. And it's just starting outside our studios. So Winnipeg now, just starting to see some of the snowfall. We will see lesser amounts, 5 to 10 centimeters through the day. So we'll have more on that for you as well. Families are calling for more accountability from Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry. Gail Johnson's mother was one of 15 care home residents allegedly abused by workers in 2022. She says families need to know what is happening with the registry. We're going to hear the latest from CBC's I-Team in our next local news at 6:30.
Okay, on the weather front, we can do this.
Yes.
Right? I think hopefully this holds.
Well, you know, we will still see, you'll still need a brush, right?
That's okay. That's okay. It was that whole 15 to 25 crazy action, like, whoa, right? Like, this is like, all right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Sincerely, thank you, really. All right, Abby has a bit more on the good news and the current temperatures.
Yes, Marcy, we're going to be dealing with more like the double-edged winter today. And for Winnipeg, we're expecting about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow once the system sweeps in. We have a warning for that. And if you look at most of the regions, what we may be getting, if you do like a total, we're about to see about 30 centimeters of accumulation once the system comes through. And then with the blowing snow and the speed, we're looking at about 80 kilometers of wind gust in the Brandon area, whipping the snow around. So there's also going to be a blowing snow advisory once that system comes that way. But for Winnipeg right now, we're hovering around -2, -3, and we should just see temperatures fall to about -5 later in the day. But up north, we're seeing wind chills still in the values of the -40s up north towards Churchill.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, what about the drive then?
Yeah, quiet commute so far. You can kind of see that there are some partly covering conditions in the western Manitoba
Manitoba this morning.
But we did have highways overnight closed and then reopened.
That is right. So, but as for now, actually, it's looking okay. Might not be ideal. And I'd love to get some updates on what people are seeing in Western Manitoba. If you do want to call the commuter line or anywhere else where there was rain, does that mean slippery highways? I would love to hear from you. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
I will just mention one thing here, and this will also be repeated in the news, but out of an abundance of caution, and this call was made last night, because of the forecast and the weather, classes at Brandon campuses of Assiniboine College are canceled until 11:30 this morning. So unless that changes this morning, that is what they sent out last night, and we don't have an update on that. So we'll be repeating that on the news. If you go to Assiniboine College, out of an abundance of caution, based on the weather forecast, Brandon campus is closed until 11:30. No classes this morning. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll have an update on that, and we'll cover it then. 6:15 now. Let's update what's going on with this military spending. Build, partner, buy. That's how the Prime Minister describes the federal government's new defense strategy. The plan has a price tag of more than $6 billion and promises, as you've been hearing on World Report, to add 125,000 new jobs over the next 10 years. Anne Fitzgerald's here to talk about it, director of the Balsillie School of International Affairs, professor of international security at Laurier University, adjunct professor over at the University of Waterloo. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what does this strategy mean, Anne? Build, partner, buy.
Well, build, partner, buy is essentially a hierarchy of choices. Build means prioritizing Canadian companies and capabilities wherever possible, especially where sovereignty, resilience, and value capture matter. Partner means working with trusted allies when we can't do everything ourselves, but doing so in ways that preserve Canadian intellectual property, Canadian skills, and long-term Canadian control. And buy is the last resort, purchasing from abroad where speed or capability demands it, but with conditions that return value to Canada rather than hollowing out our defense industrial base. So in short, build, partner, buy means Canada builds where it must or what it must, partners where it makes sense to partner, and buys abroad only when it doesn't have a better option.
How well positioned are we to be an important player in this sector now, and where do we need to go to be better?
Canada's strong fundamentals, including highly skilled people, advanced research institutions, and innovative firms in areas like AI, cyber, quantum, space, and advanced manufacturing. So the strategy rightly recognizes this and orients the policy towards supporting Canadian companies. And this is something which many of our allies have been doing for years. The challenge here is whether we can now lock in value, not just grow companies that are later bought out or pushed downstream in global value chains. And this requires additional sophisticated thinking and a more sophisticated industrial playbook, one that focuses on the strategic use of IP, data, Canadian standards, and what truly constitutes a Canadian firm in an intangibles economy. It's important for growth and stability in our economy, and ensuring that the very Canadian firms that the strategy seeks to grow will remain Canadian and globally competitive and not sold to the highest bidder in 5 years' time. So in short, Canada has the talent and technology. The question is whether Canada can keep the value here.
Which other Canadian industries will likely benefit from this plan when you think of overall?
Yeah, the spillover effects could be significant. Sectors such as advanced manufacturing, clean energy, critical minerals, aerospace, telecommunications, logistics, and data infrastructure all are likely to benefit from this defense-driven investment. The North is particularly important here. Investments in Arctic infrastructure, transport, and communications will support both security and economic development. So done properly, the strategy can raise productivity by driving demand for high-value design, engineering, and systems integration across our economy.
Where can't we compete with the U.S.? Like you named a number of areas that could benefit, but are there sectors or industries where you might say the U.S. is going to capitalize on that? We should actually think more about this direction in Canada.
Well, Canada shouldn't try to compete with the U.S. on scale, and the strategy doesn't suggest this. I think instead our success would lie in complementarity. So filling capability gaps, especially in niche technologies, and embedding Canadian firms into North American and allied value chains where we add unique value. The real risk here is becoming a supplier of components while other countries capture intellectual property and long-term rents that flow from that. So to compete effectively, we need to pair industrial investment with smarter approaches to important foundations of our prosperity. So focusing on foundations like IP, data, and Canadian standards, so the value stays here in Canada. So Canada shouldn't try to outspend the U.S., but try instead to out-specialize.
Well put. Thank you very much, Anne, for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That is Anne Fitzgerald with us, Director of Balsillie School of International Affairs, frequent guest on our program, joining us from Waterloo.
It's time to get loud, Canada, because Milano Cortina 2026 isn't just on your screen. It's happening across the country, and you're invited to join the celebration. CBC is hosting free live events packed with family fun, games, and activities, and full-on Team Canada energy. So get off the couch, come on down, and let's celebrate the games together. To find events near you, visit cbc.ca/experiences.
So we are getting some school closures and cancellations. Now, some of these kind of an abundance of caution due to the expected weather. Some of them, though, reacting to what we are getting. Remember, we did have some highways closed overnight in Western Manitoba. Those have now all reopened, but we are still expecting snow. So you're kind of making a decision also about the end of the day as well as the start. So Assiniboine College says that their campus in Brandon is closed until at least 11:30 this morning. In addition, Prairie Rose School Division has decided they will close all schools today. We just heard from them. And all schools in the Borderland School Division will be closed today as well. So that's the list to this hour. You might have heard Heather mentioning that this system has slightly changed because of the warm temperatures. We aren't expecting to see maybe quite as much here in Winnipeg, at least. Winnipeg, 5 to 10 centimeters. Snow at times heavy today. It has started downtown. It's not particularly heavy right now. But we didn't get overnight what we were expecting. So 5 to 10 today, maybe 2 to 4 more overnight, and overall could be a little less in the system. But to the west, you still do have gusting winds and expected amounts of about 5 to 10 centimeters as well. And up through the Parkland, I mean, you still do have the yellow warnings that could bring you more like that 25 centimeters. So we're very much watching all of Manitoba to see what this system does today for you on your day. We also are just getting in my ear here, I'm being told Mountain View School Division, all rural bus routes have been canceled, and that is because of the current forecasted weather. Dauphin in-city buses, though, will still run, and school is still on for students who can get there safely. So that is, once again, in the Mountain View School Division. Well, if you're a regular listener to Information Radio on CBC, then you know we have the Olympic Report coming up. We started last week with the games, and now every hour at 25 past the hour, we tune into Olympic Reports. We'll get the latest from Milano Cortina. To get us there, though, we have some music from Charlotte Day Wilson. This tune's called Patchwork.
It's not gonna be simple, babe. It's gotta be a patchwork. Oh, for better, babe. We'll find whatever it's worth. No, it's not gonna be simple, babe. It's always been a patchwork. Oh, for better, baby. We'll know whatever it's worth. It's always been a patchwork. Oh, for better, baby. We'll know whatever it's worth in the end.
Charlotte Day Wilson with music to start your day. This tune's called Patchwork on CBC. I'm listening closely. Sounds like rain in the background, right? We might get some freezing rain, actually, in Manitoba today. We are all watching, though, what's happening with the snow. And because of the systems, this list of school closures is changing by the minute. So Prairie Rose School Division is closed. Red River Valley School Division is closed. Borderland is closed. Mountain View School Division, no rural buses. But in Dauphin, they will have buses. Use travel if you do need to travel to get to school. And that is because the system is starting in the west. It is moving through Winnipeg. We're going to get a little bit less snow than we thought, though, because of those warm temperatures. However, when you look at southern Manitoba, already we've had 13 centimeters fall in Morden. So just a bit of a change system from what we were initially forecasting yesterday, which is good news. We need some moisture for the fire situation, as Corey reminds me, and also the farming situation. But then for shoveling, I think a lot of us are like, oh, that warmth was nice. We have business news coming up here on 89.3 FM momentarily, and one additional school closure, Beautiful Plains, buses not running. It's Olympic Report.
That is a devastating hit. The fact that he even made the finals of the slopestyle event, nothing short of a miracle.
It wasn't to be for Canadian snowboard star Mark McMorris today. Good morning. I'm Scott Reguer with your Olympic Games report. McMorris crashed on his final attempt in the slopestyle final. He avoided major injury, but could not avoid missing the podium. My Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik joins me now. Sonali, a disappointing end to McMorris's games.
Eyes were on him, being the three-time bronze medalist, his fourth Olympic Games. China's Su Yiming won gold in the men's slopestyle just now, his fourth Olympic medal and second of these games after winning bronze in big air. Su won silver in this event in Beijing. Competition was so tight, and McMorris missed the big air event actually because of injuries from an accident in training. Those injuries included a concussion, Scott, among others. And of course, McMorris is a legend in the sport. This was his fourth Games, as we mentioned. He's had bronze in previous games. McMorris was going for a high degree of difficulty on his final run to get those scores up, but he ended up crashing. You know, he never plays it safe, and sometimes these things happen.
Thanks, Sonali. That's my Olympic Report co-host. Thanks, Sonali. That's my Olympic. It's going to be busy in Lavigno today. Aerial skiers will also be competing for medals.
She is on course. Let's go.
Oh, Alex! That is massive.
Canada's Marion Teno had the top score in qualifying this morning, well ahead of the defending Olympic champion from China, Mingtao Xu. So we'll see how things go for Teno in the finals, which are just underway. Should Teno surprise and win gold, it would be Canada's fourth top-of-the-podium finish in as many days. A big turnaround then from the first half of the Games, where Canadians didn't win any. Canada's chef de mission, Jennifer Heil, joins me now on the line from Cortina. Jen, has winning gold become too much of a priority for fans, the media, and athletes alike?
You know, as an athlete that, I only focused on trying to get to the top of the podium and having the ultimate performance. That being said, I think it's a bit of a dangerous business proposition to only try and win gold medals. I think we really do need to prepare our athletes for, hitting that performance zone and that strike position. If we do want to be in the business of only gold medals, that's an even larger investment to assure that that's happening. There hasn't been any new investment into the sport system in 22 years in terms of the operating costs for coaches, training camps. I think it's really important to share that a lot of these athletes have had to cancel training camps in the run-up here because there isn't enough funds for it. I've talked to coaches who are worried they won't have jobs next year. Our team is thinning, and I've heard that from the athletes as well. They say that the development team, the next gen, they're not there. I've talked to families where they're saying we can only afford one Olympic cycle because it's falling back on the athletes who are paying on average $25,000 per person to be here, and the families can't shoulder this burden. So we're losing the next generation of athletes.
Is that a distraction right now for the athletes in the midst of the Olympics?
Well, it's a massive burden on the athletes at this Olympics. I mean, it characterizes this team. They are under tremendous financial stress to get here. You know, how you show up, how rested you are, the amount of stress you have, all of that translates into performance. And I'm feeling it with the support staff and the team as well. They're incredibly stressed. They're incredibly tired. We just need an investment that will allow us to be competitive and make sure the next generation of athletes are there, because we're not seeing them right now. And so, you know, this trajectory of not winning, you know, gold medals in the first week and beyond, this will continue if we don't prioritize this.
Canada's chef de mission, Jennifer Heil. There is men's hockey this morning with Canada taking on Czechia in the quarterfinals. Puck drop for that one is at 10:40. So far, Connor McDavid and company have looked like strong contenders, dare I say it, for gold. And that is your Olympic Winter Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is -3. The snow just starting now. We're expecting heavy snow at times, 5 to 10 centimeters today. Windy as well. Our temperature falling to -5 today. And waking up to mostly bare streets in Winnipeg might have you wondering, what happened to all that snow? Chris Stammers at Environment and Climate Change Canada says it is still coming, as we can see, but it was a slow start.
A lot more warm air with this system than was forecast or than models had as well. So that can kind of lower amounts. Still expecting about 5 to 10 centimeters here in the city. It's going to be and then another few more tonight, and then it's even going to be snowy on Thursday as well. So it's a prolonged system. It's a slow-moving system.
Stammer says Winnipeg's on the eastern edge of this low. Places like Morden have already seen about 13 centimeters of snow. So for today, a snowfall warning continues for southern Manitoba, a blowing snow advisory for western Manitoba, and we are already starting to see some school closures and school bus cancellations. Marcy will have the complete list for you after this newscast. An 11-year-old suffered a concussion, lost a tooth, and had his hair pulled out after an assault at a Steinbach school. Melissa Johnson says 2 students attacked her son, Theo Osborne, at Stony Brook Middle School during the lunch hour a week ago. Johnson says her son was made fun of for his long hair, adding the attack was racially motivated. Osborne is a member of Pimachikamak Cree Nation. Bambi Dawn at Mino Odoen says the Southeast Indigenous Cultural Group wants to support the family.
We wanted to be able to come alongside this family to offer our support, and we want to ensure that every child can feel safe at school.
2 students have been handed suspensions. Hanover School Division says it is reviewing the matter and looking at its lunch hour supervision practices. Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry lists those found to have abused the province's most vulnerable people. But families say they are being kept in the dark. CBC's Michelle Allen reports.
She was very, very vulnerable.
Deborah Roach advocated to create Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry in 2013. Now Roach says the registry is failing her nonverbal sister Chris. Chris died in 2020 after an accident at a care home. Roach says a worker didn't secure Chris's dentures properly. The hooks lodged in Chris's esophagus. She had surgery but later died. Roach still doesn't know if the worker involved has been put on the Adult Abuse Registry.
Probably more could have been done at every level.
A spokesperson for the Families Minister said the registry doesn't tell families if the accused abuser is added to the registry or not. Some other provinces have healthcare aid registries that show investigations and discipline. BC Seniors advocate Dan Levitt says this can help.
We should be making sure that we have safeguards in place.
Roach says she doesn't expect the Adult Abuse Registry will ever give her answers. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Former city CAO Phil Shiegel will be back before the public inquiry today into construction cost overruns at Winnipeg's police headquarters. It's the first time Shiegel's talked about the project since he left City Hall. He was asked about his contacts with Armic Babakanians of Caspian Construction. Caspian got the city contract in 2011. Shiegel was asked about an earlier meeting with Babakanians while the bidding was still going on.
In retrospect, I agree with you, and it was probably not right to meet with him. It was not right to meet with him, but I was not aware. I shouldn't say I wasn't aware. I didn't even think that there would be a problem with meeting with him or other people.
A court found in 2022 Shiegel accepted a $327,000 bribe from Bobacanians. Manitoba's health minister will not call a public inquiry into how lengthy emergency room waits have contributed to recent deaths. Uzoma Asaguera says they are trying to get all the answers for the family of Stacey Ross. The 55-year-old died last month. On 2 separate occasions, she waited hours in the ER, suffering chest pain. Her family has called for a public inquiry. Asaguera is sticking with a critical incident review.
I have given direction to St. Boniface to ensure that an external out-of-province expert is brought in to this CI to ensure that the family's concerns are addressed and they are provided the reassurance they need.
Asaguera says the key findings and recommendations from the critical incident review will be made public if the family wants. Mushing in the memory of a northern sled dog racer. The Jimmy Custer Memorial Dog Race was held in Denair Beach near Flin Flon this past weekend. It bears the name of a renowned northern musher and promoter. Jimmy Custer died in 2017, but his son Wally Olson holds this race each winter in his dad's memory.
It's very heartwarming. Obviously I miss my dad a ton. This helps a lot. To hear his name on the radio and on Facebook, to see Jimmy Custer, it means a lot to me that he's remembered.
Some of the racers will head to the Paw this week for the Northern Manitoba Trappers Festival and one of its main events, the World Championship Dog Race. You can find the latest news throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, Heather mentioned I'd have the full list of school closures. So here they are to this hour, and this has grown. As Heather also mentioned at the top of the news, the system has slightly changed, only that it's moving through Winnipeg a little bit slower. And because of our warmer weather here, we might see a little bit less accumulation, but we're very much still expecting snow. And in some of the western areas, and then obviously we mentioned Morden's already had 13 centimeters. It's still coming. So a lot of the school divisions making these decisions. Here's the list so far. Prairie Rose School Division is closed today. So is Red River Valley and Borderland. Also closed Prairie Spirit School Division. Garden Valley Schools closed. Turtle Mountain, no buses or classes. And Fort LaBosse, no buses or classes. In addition, Assiniboine College, Brandon campus is closed. They'll reassess later. No classes until 11:30 so far. Mountain View School Division, no rural buses are running. In Beautiful Plains, buses aren't running, but in those divisions, school is on. And then Brandon School Division, buses won't operate outside of the city of Brandon, although Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley schools are closed. Let's get to what is actually happening then, just with a bit more detail on your current temperatures with Abby.
Yeah, good morning, Marcy. Just taking a peek outside the window, and I can see the light snow already falling outside, and no more bare roads. We can now see the snow really taking its true form on the pavement this morning. So you might want to allow yourself enough braking speed. It might look bare, but it's slippery. Major storm sweeping across the southern part of the province. We have warnings in effect. Heavy snow coming, blowing snow coming towards some regions, and we're looking at about 30 centimeters of accumulation expected in the region. Then you toss in 80 kilometers of winds. That will be the wind gust. It's definitely going to make driving really impossible for people into Thursday morning. So take that into some consideration. For Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, this day we're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters of snow for the region. We warm up to about 5 degrees later. Currently, we're seeing -3. Light snow falling, getting winds from the northeast. Expect heavier snow and local blowing snow in outlying areas to dominate the afternoon commute. So put that into consideration. Across the south, we're seeing temperatures ranging from -3 to -8 at this time, tracking it from the Pembina Valley region through the Westman region and all the way to the Interlake region, also having snowfall warning, and the Dauphin and Brandon region getting that blowing snow advisory also in effect. For the north, we're talking about the deep freeze there. Temperatures hover between minus 18 and minus 20 at this time. Most of the regions getting light snow falling. The highs would be between minus 14 and minus 26. Though the real danger for the north is the wind chill. Churchill actually has wind chills in the valleys of minus 34, minus 35 at this time. And then you track it further north towards Churchill and Tuduli Lake. We're looking at wind chills in the valleys of minus 42, which means frostbite can strike in a matter of minutes. So take it easy. So just take it easy out there today. The storm is coming. Don't think it's not coming. We should get reasonable amount of snow by the end of today into Thursday morning. But for Winnipeg right now, we're already seeing the snow coming down, minus 3 in the city.
Yeah. It's funny. Corey and I were just talking about this. We started, excited, oh my gosh, you're waking up. It's not so bad. So it's somewhere between how bad we thought it was, maybe not as bad, and maybe not complete jubilation as well, because it is still coming. We're going to get the snow today. As Abby said, take it easy out there. So far on the commute, Corey, what do you know?
Yeah, if there's going to be any tricky driving, it's going to be in Western Manitoba right now. Those Western highways, I'm seeing on Manitoba 501 partly covered conditions throughout southwestern Manitoba. So it may be some slippery spots, but still drivable, at least according to Manitoba 511. But if you do see something going on, I did get a call from St. Vital Import that highway's still looking good on Highway 9 heading up to Selkirk, quite drivable. But if you do see something, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line if you're walking, biking, driving this morning. I'd love to get some updates on folks. So it's going to be different all over the province because there was even some rain in Steinbach yesterday. So you can give us a call, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thanks very much, Corey. And we, I think, have all of the schools now organized in terms of who is closed and open. There's one additional one here on our list. It is Western School Division. They will also have schools closed today. So that's one that did just come in after I did that full list. It's time for business news. Christely Ramlakan has been patiently waiting for us to talk storm. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, Marcy. Thank you.
Good. In business news, the Bank of Canada ordering a restaurant tip manager to halt payment activities. What's going on?
Yes, that's right. So the central bank is telling XTM to stop performing any retail payment activities. The bank says it has serious concerns that XTM has failed to safeguard funds, and allowing it to continue operations could be harmful to the public. So XTM provides a payment service for restaurant owners to gather and distribute tips to staff using prepaid cards through a platform called Every Day. And the Bank of Canada says the company's financial statements show it has caused significant shortfalls. So it is also ordering XTM to stop representing itself as a payment service provider. So XTM is one of more than 800 providers registered with the Bank of Canada, which is tasked with ensuring providers manage risks and safeguard funds. So the Globe and Mail is reporting the CEO of the British Columbia Restaurant and Food Services Association has calculated at least $10 million in losses after speaking with about 40 or 50 restaurants. The CEO of the Ontario Restaurant, Hotel and Motel Association says he has spoken with a handful of affected restaurants, including a large chain, and the Restaurant Association of Nova Scotia has advised its members of a growing number of reports of account discrepancies and delayed access to funds from restaurant operators using the platform.
Let's go to another business story. Agrochemical maker Bayer has, I hope I'm saying that correctly, has proposed a settlement now of over $7 billion. What's it over?
So this would be to resolve thousands of lawsuits alleging the company failed to warn people that its popular weed killer Roundup could cause cancer. So the proposed settlement comes as the U.S. Supreme Court is also preparing to hear arguments on Bayer's assertion that the Environmental Protection Agency's approval of Roundup without a cancer warning should invalidate claims filed in state courts in the U.S. So that case would not be affected by the proposed settlement, though. Now, the Germany-based Bayer acquired Roundup maker Monsanto in 2018. And it disputes the assertion that the weed killer's key ingredient can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the CEO of Bayer says litigation uncertainty has plagued the company for years and that this settlement gives it a road to closure. But the settlement still needs the court's approval.
And changing gears here, a judge has ruled on whether boneless wings actually have to come from wing meat.
Yes, I know this is a case that's really keeping people up at night. But yeah, a judge in the U.S. has now ruled that a boneless chicken wing does not need to come from actual wing meat at Buffalo Wild Wings. So a man sued the restaurant in 2023. He says he was misled about the boneless wings and demanded about $10 million in damages. But the judge says the claim has no meat on its bones here. The judge says a reasonable consumer would not think that boneless wings were truly deboned chicken wings. And the judge says the chain can sell boneless wings even though they are essentially chicken nuggets. And, the man wanted the judge to order Buffalo Wild Wings to rename its boneless wings to something like chicken poppers. But in a 10-page opinion, the judge said words can have multiple meanings. So the man has also sued the makers of hefty recycling bags and Kind granola over what he called deceptive wording. But you know what, Marcy? He also lost in court over those cases.
Is he just sitting at home thinking of things, or I don't know? It's super interesting though.
I know. I mean, he's really trying to get someone on the deceptive marketing. But yeah, I don't think anyone thought that boneless wings were actually like. Can you imagine taking a wing and trying to take all the bones out of it?
Crystal Lee, there's a lot of people in the world. Someone might have thought that. All right, take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Crystal Lee Ramlicam with our business news.
Have you visited CBC's Being Black in Canada website? It's an online platform to explore the stories and experiences of Black Canadians across the country. A space for news, documentaries, arts and culture, Black achievement in sports, and so much more. Celebrating a uniquely Canadian perspective on Black issues with the cultural moments that matter to Black Canadians. Visit cbc.ca/Being Black in Canada.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
Well, the news today is about the weather. So we know that this storm system is going to be slow. It's going to last. The snow is going to come, and you'll say, this isn't that dramatic, but a lot of it's going to fall. So in Winnipeg, we are still expecting 5 to 10 centimeters. It's already just started in downtown. Pretty calm right now. And then we'll get some more tonight. Morton's already seen 13 centimeters of snow for perspective, and Western Manitoba highways have closed and then reopened. So it's a very interesting system. We are expecting it just to be potentially a little bit less snow around the Winnipeg area because of the easterly winds, and also because the temperatures are, pretty warm. It's only -3 here. So that is what we understand about the system. But because of all of this, there's a lot of closures because schools are having to make their decisions. In some places, it's already challenging, but also later today, as I said, it's going to be a different situation. So I have a very long list to read out. This has been changing by the minute, so I'm just going to take my time with it because I'm worried I'm going to miss something here. So let's just start with the Assiniboine College in Brandon. Their campus has no classes until 11:30 this morning, and then they're going to reassess. And then let's go to some of the closures. Prairie Rose School Division is closed. So is Red River Valley and Borderland, Garden Valley, and Prairie Spirit. Fort LaBosse is also closed. We also have classes and buses canceled today, all closed in Turtle Mountain School Division. Western School Division is closed. Southwest Horizon School Division, no classes. Then to some bus situations. Mountain View School Division, school is on, but rural bus routes are canceled. In Beautiful Plains, buses are not running, but school is on. In Brandon School Division, buses aren't operating in the rural areas, and these schools are closed. Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley. And then we go to the DSFM, the Franco-Manitoban Division. School closures for Saint-Lazare, Aurel-le-Moine, Gilbert-Rossé, and École Régionale Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes. Then we also have bus cancellations in the DSFM in La Source, Jour-de-Plaine, Saint-Jean-Baptiste, and Réal-Bérard. And so I'm just checking. This is all included. Heather, come on the mic here. Pop the mic on.
I just made it in sync for you.
There.
Made it easier for you to read.
Oh, look at this. What Heather's saying off mic is, it's all good. We got it covered. Thank you. For those of you that don't know, because you never see her on camera, Heather pops in here, in and out all morning. She gets her steps in on these snowy days, because in between the news, she's the one that comes in and gives me all of the lists for what is closed. And as I said, it continues to change. What she did is make it all in sync for me, so it's easier to read. So she updated the format, but we don't have any updates to the list. So that's what's going on, folks. If you do have something to add, let us know. Of course, we always get the very latest ahead of 7 o'clock. It is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock right now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thank you for joining us. And next on the show, a little bit of music from Canadian singer-songwriter Rhea May. She's got a new album out, actually. She's going to be on tour this winter, and she's playing Winnipeg tomorrow at Side Stage. Maybe you're checking her out. This is Light Me Up on 89.3.
Breathe in the meaning, I've still been reaching for it. Call off the SOS and the war in my head. Just like the seasons, don't need a reason to unfreeze and leave it all behind. Chalk and the dark thoughts, smooth out the lines and the minds on the paths in my head. Oh, what a feeling, just to be feeling something. Unfreeze and let it warm me up again.
Maybe you're checking out Rhea May tomorrow night in Winnipeg. She is on tour all the way through February and March, and she'll perform tomorrow night at Side Stage. That's Light Me Up. It's 8 minutes to 7 o'clock on 89.3 FM as we wait for the light to come up here in Winnipeg. Light snow falling downtown. It is -3. And, of course, we have that yellow warning for snowfall, a caution all across southern Manitoba today as we watch a slow-moving system that's going to bring quite a bit of snow between today and tomorrow. Well, have you ever searched for an obituary of a loved one online and then you started coming across multiple links and listings? If it's not the funeral home or a local paper, it may be a link to an obituary aggregator. Some in the funeral business say these websites are a scourge. Now a national petition out of Winnipeg seeks to ban them. The CBC's Manjulis Alvaraja looks at this.
Anne-Mary Aikens was mourning the sudden loss of her nephew when she and her family found themselves caught up in a strange situation. The Toronto woman says it started a few hours after the funeral arrangements were made. A relative shared a memorial page.
And people immediately went to it, and there was a place to write condolences. The first choice was to buy flowers. Second was to light a candle, which costs you.
Aikens is a media strategist by day and considers herself online savvy. She says it seemed a little curious, an obituary not written by the family, with buttons on the website to pay for services, but
I think when people are feeling overwhelmed, feeling grief, feeling distracted, we sometimes will ignore those warnings.
Soon she learned that a Quebec-based company, Ecovita, had created the page without the consent of the family or the funeral home.
My instant reaction was I was angry. I was shocked that somebody could take people at their worst moments in their lives. Shameful that people would do that for profit.
Ecovita is a third-party obituary site with thousands of memorials. There's even one for Celine Dion's mother, with multiple people paying tribute to her with virtual candles. The cost for a digital candle starts at $8 a month. In response to a request from CBC News, Ecovita's management says that families have the option to edit, remove, or authorize obituaries. They say they offer free access to obituary information and comply with the law, with the obituaries crafted from facts that are publicly shared. They describe the reaction to their business model as resistance from the traditional funeral industry. Anne-Marie Aikens says the company took down her nephew's memorial page after multiple requests. Brad Jones is the owner of Ridley Funeral Home in Toronto. He also sits on the board of the Ontario Funeral Service Association. He describes what happens after families come in to make funeral arrangements.
One of the services that we provide for families is having a death notice on our website. And it gives the family a place to write something that doesn't cost them money. If you put a notice into a newspaper, you're paying per line.
He describes how some third-party obituary sites then scrape these details.
So what happens is these companies, and there's been a few in the past 5-10 years, but they go around and they scrape this information off of websites, funeral home websites. If the family puts a notice in like a newspaper, they'll scrape it off of their digital notices as well.
Jones says some of these online memorials feature ads.
If you go to a funeral home website, I don't think you'll find any ads anywhere. So they're making money off of their ads, and if they're, selling products, they're making money off of that as well.
Jones says he has taken many calls from families frustrated about third-party obituary sites. Even worse, he says, sometimes the scrapers get the funeral details wrong.
So, families or friends have shown up on the wrong day or the wrong time, or they've missed services altogether.
He worries that this problem will worsen with advances in AI. Louise Hartland says her organization has received complaints about obituary aggregators. She's Director of Public Relations for Consumer Protection BC, a provincial regulator for different sectors, including the funeral industry. She says these aggregators copy information from obituaries
and then repost it online to sell memorial items without a family's permission. So that money doesn't actually go to the family.
She has tips for people looking for an obituary.
Make sure the obituary is posted by a trusted organization like a funeral home or newspaper.
And if any website asks for donations,
call the funeral service provider listed to confirm donations are legitimate. And if it's appropriate, you can check directly with somebody close to the family.
There's a national petition to the House of Commons calling for a ban on these types of obituary modifications. The Manitoba woman who started it says she was driven to do it after a similar experience. Meanwhile, consumers need to take care. Examine who you're dealing with online before you pay for a tribute to a loved one. For CBC Radio, I'm Manjula Selvarajah.
Now, speaking of paying attention to what's online, in the next hour of information radio on our medical column, you might not want to admit it, but most of us have at some point gone online for health information or maybe to try and diagnose ourselves. But do you trust what you find? And should you trust what you find? We're going to go over some of the questions. We're going to go over some of the sites and some of the issues with Dr. Raj Bhardwaj on our medical column. Also in the next hour, a program out of Germany is creating stronger communities by creating dialogue between people with different ideologies. We're going to tell you more about how it works and how you can participate in a similar program here in Manitoba. CBC Manitoba getting behind this, and we'll talk all about Manitoba Talks after 7 o'clock. And then a little bit later, we'll learn more about the Federal Trade Mission in Mexico and check in with a family-owned business that is there and hoping to sprinkle some of their Manitoba-made spices down south. Heather Wells is in now with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, former city CAO Phil Shiegel will testify again today at the Winnipeg Police Headquarters Public Inquiry. It's looking into construction cost overruns. Now, Shiegel was asked about his contacts with Armik Babakanians of Caspian Construction. Caspian got the city contract in 2011. Shiegel admits meeting him while the bidding was still going on. And there will be no public inquiry into how lengthy hospital emergency room waits have contributed to recent deaths. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Schools closed, divisions closed. Prairie Rose, Red River Valley, Borderland, Garden Valley, Prairie Spirit, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Western and Southwest Horizon. Rural buses canceled in Mountain View. Beautiful Plains, everything is running, but buses are not running in Beautiful Plains, but schools on. Brandon School Division, no rural buses. Alexander, O'Kelly, Spring Valley schools are closed. And the DSFM, there are school closures and bus cancellations as well. Check dsfm.ca for more.
On the current, Canada has agreed to allow up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market.
Chinese electric vehicles are wildly popular in many countries around the world, including Mexico, and now they're coming to Canada. We're in Mexico City, and we'll take a Chinese EV for a test drive and hear what they mean for Canada's auto sector coming up on The Current from Mexico City.
The Current with Matt Galloway, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Many of Canada's public servants are still dealing with errors and clawbacks with their pay. The federal government launched the Phoenix payroll system 10 years ago. The Auditor General calls it an incomprehensible failure. It has cost taxpayers nearly $5 billion. Priscilla Kisang-Huang has more.
Sophie Charpentier sifts through piles of documents, spreadsheets to pay stubs blanketing her kitchen counter, a testament to the years the public servant invested in her payroll issues. A victim of Phoenix, Charpentier estimates the federal government owes her more than $50,000, a problem that began in 2016 when she went on medical leave to fight colon cancer.
Ça se peut pas que mon employeur me vole. C'est carrément ça.
Choking up, she says, it just can't be that my employer is stealing from me, but that's exactly what it is. That sense of betrayal is shared by thousands of public servants, some 238,000 cases still in the Phoenix backlog for overpayments and underpayments. Sean O'Reilly is the union president of PIPSC.
The last 10 years of Phoenix have been a nightmare for my members.
The replacement system, Dayforce, is still years away. Alex Benet is the Associate Deputy Minister of Public Services and Procurement Canada. 2030, he says, is a tentative date.
We're not going to be beholden to a schedule like we did in the last series because we know what happened. We know the story.
Benet hopes this year Dayforce will begin testing with 3 departments. But with looming mass layoffs, Charpentier can't fathom leaving with unresolved pay issues. I can't leave. How could I want to retire, she says, until it's sorted out. How are we supposed to live? Priscilla Kisang-Huang, CBC News, Ottawa.
A California trial will hear some highly anticipated testimony today. Mark Zuckerberg is expected to face questions about social media addiction. He's the head of Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. The case involves a now 20-year-old woman. She claims she became addicted to social media and it contributed to her depression and suicidal thoughts. Meta denies the claim. The case could set a legal precedent for thousands of lawsuits filed in the U.S. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is distancing himself from comments made by a member of his own caucus. Ontario MP Jamil Giovanni is friends with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, and he recently traveled to Washington to talk trade. As Tom Perry reports, Giovanni is being criticized for that trip and what he said about Canada-U.S. relations.
Well, he speaks for himself, and I speak for the party.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre looking to draw a clear line between himself and a member of his caucus. Jamil Giovanni, MP for Bowmanville, Oshawa North, recently traveled to Washington, D.C. on a self-proclaimed mission to patch up trade relations between Canada and the U.S. Giovanni went to school with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who met his old pal and arranged a chat with President Donald Trump. Giovanni says Trump had a message of love for Canada, and when he got home, the Conservative MP went on a right-wing radio talk show based in the U.S. with a message of his own, that it's up to Canada to make peace.
We are shooting ourselves in the foot if we continue this anti-America, hissy fit.
Poilievre says that's not how he sees things.
Canadians are legitimately upset by the unjustifiable tariffs and comments that the president has made.
Poilievre has spoken to Giovanni about his trip, but didn't say whether he thought the trip was helpful. Poilievre points out the auto sector in Giovanni's Oshawa riding has been hit hard by U.S. tariffs and says he encourages all members to use whatever connections they have to get those tariffs removed. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
Late Show host Stephen Colbert is taking another shot at his soon-to-be former employer, CBS. He's accusing the broadcaster of pulling one of his interviews out of fear of the U.S. federal regulator.
I'm just so surprised that this giant global corporation would not stand up to these bullies.
Colbert interviewed Texas Senate Democratic candidate James Tellerico, but it did not air on television. Colbert says CBS lawyers raised concerns about an FCC rule requiring equal airtime for political candidates.
There has long been a very famous exception to that rule, and that exception included talk shows, interviews with politicians. We looked, and we can't find one example of this rule being enforced for any talk show interview, not only for my entire late-night career, but for anyone's late-night career going back to the 1960s.
CBS says it did not prohibit the interview. It only gave legal advice and guidance, but it has been accused of caving to political pressure in the past. Colbert's show will be canceled after May 21st. That interview with James Tellerico is now on YouTube. It's not subject to FCC rules. 22 Canadian soldiers are buried in a Commonwealth War cemetery in Gaza City. But in July and August last year, the Israel Defense Forces dug as deep as 30 meters under that cemetery. A military official speaking on condition of anonymity told CBC News it was part of a combat operation to destroy a Hamas tunnel. Evan Dyer reports.
I think it's terrible. It should never have happened.
91-year-old Grace Bolton's older brother, Johnny Fickling, is one of those buried in the plot. Johnny's niece, Sharon Gibbs, has seen the satellite photos.
I was able to look things up, and it looks pretty bad. I really don't think there's much of the cemetery there now at all.
The Suez Canal, never far from the news in its 87 years of history, hits the headlines like a bombshell.
1956, Egypt nationalizes the Suez Canal and Israeli forces invade, triggering the Suez Crisis. Lester Pearson launches Canada's first peacekeeping mission. Johnny Fickling was one of 22 peacekeepers who never returned to Canada. Together, they're buried in the Commonwealth War Cemetery in Gaza City, alongside British, Australian and Indian soldiers killed in both World Wars. CBC News visited the site in 2009, and caretaker Ibrahim Jarada showed a green and well-tended plot. But in July last year, IDF bulldozing operations appear to have completely destroyed the Canadian corner of the cemetery.
It has to be devastating, and I'm devastated by it. The whole Legion is.
Berkeley Lawrence, National President of the Royal Canadian Legion, says headstones and walls can be replaced, but human remains can't be.
And that's a question I can't answer. What happened to the remains that were there when it was dug up?
The revelation that the Israeli army dug as deep as 30 meters is bad news for those who hoped the damage might be on the surface only. Israeli officials still haven't said when the Commonwealth War Graves Commission will be allowed to visit the site. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The election is still 2 years away, but Sara Duterte says she will run to be president of the Philippines.
I offer my life, my strength, and my future in the service of our nation.
Duterte is currently vice president, but she is in a bitter power struggle with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. They were running mates in 2022, but had a falling out soon after their landslide win. Duterte is the daughter of former President Rodrigo Duterte. He is now being held in The Hague to face charges of crimes against humanity during his violent war on drugs. As spring break approaches, health officials have a warning for Canadians heading south. Protect yourself against measles. Some vacation destinations in the U.S. are seeing outbreaks of the virus. Lauren Pelly reports.
When you go to check your passport, check your vaccination status and check the status of everyone in the family who's going.
That's the message from Canada's top doctor for any Canadians travelling this winter. Acting Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Natasha Crowcroft says you don't want to bring measles home from a holiday.
And one of the things that's a bit different about the situation is it's affecting countries that you don't normally think of as being a risk for measles.
Mexico has reported more than 2,700 new cases so far this year, and there are nearly 1,000 new cases across the U.S. Infections are soaring right now in Florida amid a growing outbreak at a university campus near Naples on the southwest coast. And the epicenter of the country's infections this year is South Carolina, with hundreds of new cases in just that state alone. McMaster University immunologist Dawn Bodish says the best way to protect yourself is by keeping up to date with your vaccines.
Where it becomes problematic is for when people are traveling with really young babies. We don't vaccinate babies before 12 months in Canada unless there's an outbreak ongoing.
Bodish said if you're planning to travel with an infant, you can ask about getting them vaccinated early.
And it's definitely worth the peace of mind of not having a baby who might be harmed by a serious infection like measles.
Last year, Canada lost its measles elimination status after more than 5,000 cases were reported throughout 2025. Health officials are hoping this year won't be a repeat. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM on CBC. This is Information Radio, your morning show. Thanks for being with us. If you're watching on YouTube or if you already looked out the door, little slower to come to us, this snow system, than we thought at first. But it is still coming, and Westman's already been seeing the beginning of it. We'll have full school closures and bus cancellations in a moment here. This hour on the show, Manitoba Talks, until we're offended and we stop. A program out of Germany is creating stronger communities by creating dialogue between people with different ideologies. We're going to tell you more about how it works and how you can participate in a similar program here in our province, so stay tuned. Also, admit it, you've probably been online for health information at some point, but do you trust it? Should you trust it? That's in our medical column today. And we're going to learn more about a federal trade mission in Mexico and check with a family-owned business that is there trying to sprinkle some of their Manitoba-made spices down south. Heather Wells first with other headlines.
Good morning. Well, a Steinbach mom says her 11-year-old son has a concussion, lost a tooth, and had his hair pulled out after an assault at school. Melissa Johnson says her son Theo Osborne was attacked at Stony Brook Middle School by 2 students a week ago. She says the attackers made fun of Theo's long hair, and Johnson believes the assault was racially motivated. We'll hear what happened there. And families are calling for more accountability from Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry. Gail Johnson's mother was one of 15 care home residents allegedly abused by workers in 2022. Court records show a healthcare aide was referred to the registry in August of 2023. But Johnson was never notified. She says families shouldn't be left in the dark. We'll hear more in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby.
We're looking at a slow system moving across the province this morning. All the regions getting light snow at this time. Winnipeg -3, light snow falling outside. We hover around -5. Expect snow at times to be heavy. For the city, 5 to 10 centimeters. And for most of the regions, we'll see temperatures stay around that range also.
788-3093 if you need us this on the drive. Should be okay so far. Some highways in Western Manitoba were closed, but they are now reopened. We do have school divisions closed. Assiniboine College closed till 11:30 on the Brandon campus. Then they'll reassess. Also, these divisions closed: Prairie Rose, Red River Valley, Borderland, Garden Valley, Prairie Spirit, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Western School Division, and Southwest Horizon. All schools open and rural bus routes, though, canceled in the Mountain View School Division. In Beautiful Plains, buses aren't running, but school is on. Brandon School Division, no rural buses. The following schools are closed: Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley schools. In the DSFM, the following schools are closed: St. Lazaro, Rel-le-Moine, Gilbert-Rosset, and École Régionale Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes. And buses canceled in the DSFM, La Source, Jour-de-Plaine, Saint-Jean-Baptiste, and Rael-Berard. Some of this due to caution for now, and some of it due to caution for later. As Abby said, that snow will continue to fall. Up next on CBC, are you tired of arguing in comment sections online? Or maybe you're not even bothering to comment because you feel there's no point in screaming into the void. We are continuing to look for people to take part in a first ever Manitoba Talks. You might have heard us talking about this on the show here on Radio 1, or maybe you were prompted already to answer a survey question if you were reading one of our stories online on CBC. Manitoba Talks is a first of its kind event in Canada. It is designed to create meaningful conversations between people who want to discuss polarizing issues, but in a respectful manner. Now, the program's based on the My Country Talks model, which was created by the German news outlet Zeit Online. To learn more, we have reached Sebastian Horn, the deputy editor-in-chief over at Zeit Online, and he joins us via Zoom. Hi there.
Hi, pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well. So tell me a little bit about an overview of what My Country Talks looks like. You've been doing this, you said, for 8 years?
Yeah. That's right. We obviously started off in Germany 8 years ago, ahead of federal elections that we had here. And the idea came about when we were sitting together in a newsroom, thinking of new formats of how we can approach these elections. And someone said, well, when was the last time each of us talked to someone, outside of a bubble that we disagree with? And then we actually wrote down on a piece of paper, political Tinder, or Tinder for politics. So the crazy idea at the time was to actually match people based on opposing political views. And that sounded completely crazy at first, but then we actually went and tried that experiment, and to our big surprise, more than 12,000 people signed up in the first year when we did it in Germany. It all went peaceful. Everyone was happy about the experience. Lots of selfies of people smiling that reached us afterwards. And then we were approached by news outlets, media outlets from all over the world who said we have equally polarized societies in our countries, and can we please use your software? And the truth of the matter is that at that point, there was no software. We had literally hacked all this together, and that was the moment, and we decided to build this out into a proper international program that CBC is now using in Canada.
It's just amazing. I mean, even that first response you had just speaks to the need for something like this, right? That it's not just obviously in our newsrooms where we're, answering these questions. We're seeing this all over the world, people going into silos. What kind of topics were discussed between those first participants?
They were mostly social and political questions, although we do make usually the point that they're not about politicians or parties per se, more about policies. So they could be immigration, it could be environment. And, they're always yes and no questions, but the experience is that when people start talking, the discussion tends to be much more nuanced, obviously.
And what did you hear from some of the first group of participants after their conversations? What did they share with you?
I'd say it's twofold. One is that they build empathy towards other people's point of view. And there's actually studies now that have been done with participants in My Country Talks that can demonstrate that. So when you participate, that helps you build trust and helps you build understanding towards other people's point of view. although some people also said it can be quite exhausting to have such a conversation. You're meeting a stranger after all. Some of these conversations can go for hours. We know of couples that talked over several cappuccinos in a cafe, and then they said, well, it's an amazing experience, but it's definitely one where you might need some rest afterwards.
Did anything get heated? Because somebody looking at this might think that this could actually get quite contentious.
Not that we know of, no. I mean, we do ask participants for feedback afterwards. They fill out these brief surveys, and it was just overwhelmingly positive. I think it really the format speaks to people who think they should be doing more than just reading and consuming the news. They actually want to engage. They want to participate in democratic discourse. They disagree strongly. I mean, we have some of these events where people actually disagree on most of the questions, but the conversations, as far as we know from the past 8 years, have always been really respectful and civilized.
What's your sense of what the long-term impact is or could be when a community hosts a series of talks like this?
I think, again, it's for those who participate, they clearly feel the effect of this. They see that it is worth to engaging in these kind of conversations, to reach across the aisle, to spend time with those that you disagree with strongly. And I think for us as media outlets, it's important also to cover these kind of connections, these conversations that take place, to kind of amplify them, to multiply them, and it's still something that we quite strongly believe in, that we should be reaching out to all people, and we should make dialogue possible. That's part of our mission as a media outlet.
What was it what was your sense of what was happening in your community, if you can put your mind back 8 years when you were thinking that dialogue was becoming impossible? Beyond that initial sort of meeting with the newsroom where you guys were talking about it, what was going on either in the threads, or what were your reporters noticing about the community that told you that this was something that is needed?
Yeah. So we did it on a federal level, like across all of Germany, so 80 million people. When we first came up with the idea, that was at a time where the right-wing party in Germany, the Alternative for Germany, was polling really high, but was not yet established in local, regional, or national parliament. So it was quite a shock to see a right-wing party in Germany poll that high. And at that time, everyone was really puzzled, especially us as journalists, to explain where that is now coming from. And that led us to this thought of, do we really, spend enough time with people who would vote for this party? What are our personal, circles like? And that's how we ended up with this idea of, we should try to make dialogue possible and build this kind of empathy and make conversations possible to better understand. When we do it now, it's obviously a bit different, because now they are clearly established that they're polling as high, if not even higher. And still, after discussions we had internally about this, we still think it's worth having these conversations, and there are things we can still agree on, and we can build understanding and empathy.
How do you defend the idea to those who might still find it challenging and say that some of the reasons that people go into silos is because people are defending what their thoughts are with things that aren't factual, and we're journalists and we deal with facts. And so sitting two people down to, quote, agree to disagree on something that actually has facts involved can be very tricky, or they might be so offended by someone's point of view that they just can't fathom that. I'm just wondering whether you've ever been in a situation where you've had to defend the idea of championing speech and connection, as you said, which is the intention.
Yeah, so I've participated in this format myself, and we did host events on stage where I interviewed people voting for parties that I would definitely not agree with. And I can say so where I disagree. I can point to the facts as I have them. But in every occasion that I had these kind of encounters, I walked away at least with a better grasp of where the other person was coming from. It's oftentimes related to their biography, their personal situation. When they put their own frustration, their own points of view towards politics into words, it does build some kind of connection, and at least there was some kind of dialogue instead of me retreating into my stereotypes about other people.
Yeah, it's about understanding above all. Is that how you would describe it?
Yes, I think it's about humanizing opinions, if you want to put it that way. But behind every political belief, there's also a human being that has reasons why they have this belief. This is not saying that I have to sympathize with that. That's not saying that I cannot disagree. I can disagree strongly. I can object. But it's not, I'm not dehumanizing and just saying there's like a part of society that is completely, not worth talking to at all. And that because they're simply crazy. There's at least an attempt to maintain some kind of connection and dialogue. Yeah.
Well, what an idea. And we're grateful that you had it in your, newsroom all those years ago, and that we're able to look at this in Canada now and for a first time in Manitoba. Thank you very much, Sebastian. Appreciate your time with us on CBC.
Thank you for having me, and good luck with this format.
Sebastian Horn, the Deputy Editor-in-Chief at Zeit Online. I spoke with him yesterday, and if you want to learn more about Manitoba Talks or sign up to participate, please go to cbc.ca/MB Talks. It is now 7:24 a.m. We have 9 school divisions that are closed, a number of bus cancellations, and also individual schools closed as well. This is due to the weather system that's moving through our province. It's a slow-moving system, so obviously school divisions getting ahead of this as well because of the snow that's going to be coming all day. So check out that list at cbc.ca/Manitoba. You can find it there, so you can prepare for your morning if you haven't already heard from your division directly. That light snow is continuing to fall in Winnipeg's downtown. It's -3. Our temperature will fall to -5 today. And in the system today, 5 to 10 centimeters expected, and then tonight, a few more. Could be a little less overall, though, maybe less dramatic. Maybe the shoveling will be more reasonable than we first thought, at least in Winnipeg. But be careful and check the highways before you head out. 788-3093 if you have anything to report on your commute. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio on CBC. And still ahead in the show, we have our medical column. Dr. Raj Bardwaj is going to talk about online Googling your health symptoms and also what cautions he has before you're going to go and do that. It is a growing trend. Right now, it's time for your Olympic report and the latest from the Games.
Hello, I'm Scott Regier with your Olympic Games report. Action this morning is centered in the town nicknamed Piccolo Tibet, Livigno, where high altitude, an isolated location, and snowshoe climate have long reminded Italians of the Tibetan Plateau. Descending that plateau as I speak are snowboarders contesting the women's slopestyle final, and a Canadian was among the best in qualifying.
I know Lori would maybe like to tee that up a little bit, but keeps it to the front 7. Smart snowboarding from Lori Blouin.
Stoneham, Quebec's Lori Blouin, who won silver in slopestyle back at the Pyeongchang Games. Whistler's Juliette Pelsha is also part of this morning's final, which was meant to be held yesterday, but was postponed because of a blizzard. Meanwhile, the men's slopestyle final was held earlier today with Canadians Mark McMorris and Cam Spaulding finishing 8th and 10th, respectively. And if all that's not enough, Livigno hosted the women's aerials final this morning as well.
Here we go, Canada. Marion Thénault.
Oh, no! She is so close.
A devastating result for Sherbrooke's Marion Thénault. Looking to qualify in the top 6, which would have placed her in the medal round, she finished 7th and barely. Thénault, a former gymnast who only started skiing when she was 17, had the top run in qualifying. Hopefully, Canada will have better fortune in Milano this morning. That's where Connor McDavid and company take on Czechia in a quarterfinal hockey game. The Canadians have been stellar in winning every contest to this point, although injuries have taken a bit of a toll. Forwards Nathan McKinnon and Sam Bennett both missed practice yesterday, while defenseman Josh Morrissey has missed the last couple of games. That said, Coach John Cooper thinks all 3 should be available against Czechia, Puck drop for that one is at 10:30 Eastern Time.
What you say?
That's Italian rock star Zucchero. Rock stars of a different sort have games against Canada today at Cortina's Olympic Curling Stadium. Stefania Constantini takes on Rachel Homan this afternoon, while Joelle Retornas is up against Brad Jacobs right now. CBC Olympic curling analyst Mike Harris is with me. Mike, what are Brad Jacobs and his rink up against?
Well, the Italians were the last team to be ranked number one in the world beyond Bruce Mowat and his team from Great Britain. So they are very, very accomplished. So Canada will be not taking this game very lightly by any means, and they're in the playoffs. So I think Brad Jacobs and his team feeling very comfortable at this point. Every kind of rep you get against a top team, top contender is important. But no, they had a huge test yesterday. They passed by beating Bruce Mowat and the world number one team. So I think they're obviously feeling very good. This is kind of a rehearsal in my mind. If you know you're in the playoffs already and you're playing some of the top teams, you start trying to get into some good habits and making sure you're doing all the small things properly. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they play now that they've secured a playoff spot. But I anticipate nothing different from them. They've been really good all week, and they've fate in their own hand, which is always good.
So playing the hosts, is it going to be loud in the arena in Cortina?
Yes, Joel Retornas and his team have an entourage that they bring with them no matter where they're playing in Europe. So there's lots of singing, lots of cheers, and I expect no different. I think that it's been loud enough already in the building, so the fact that they're playing Canada now, I think, should amplify things in many ways.
We'll see what happens. Thanks, Mike.
Pleasure.
CBC Olympic curling analyst Mike Harris. As for the song, that's called Baila Morena, which means to dance, something Canadian fans hope they'll have reason to do after day 12 of these games. By the way, Brad Jacobs, scoreless right now in the second end with Italy. And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Riggett.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is -3. Got a little bit of snowfall out there now, and the snow at times will be heavy. The wind is going to pick up, blowing some of the snow around. Our temperature falls to -5 this afternoon. Well, it may have taken its time hitting Winnipeg, but a Montana low is still bringing the snow. Chris Stammers at Environment and Climate Change Canada says warm temperatures last night kept any precipitation that fell in a form other than snow.
Kind of on the eastern edge, and what ended up happening is we had a fair bit of freezing rain last night that kind of lowered snowfall amounts for last night. A lot more warm air with this system than was forecast.
Stammers says areas to the west were hit with snow. By 6 this morning, Morden measured 13 centimeters. And as the snow starts falling in Winnipeg, Stammers says the city can expect between 5 and 10 centimeters today, more through the evening and into tomorrow. A snowfall warning is still in place across southern Manitoba, with a blowing snow advisory for western Manitoba. A Steinbach mom says her 11-year-old son has a concussion. He's lost a tooth and had his hair pulled out after an assault at school. Melissa Johnson says her son, Theo Osborne, was attacked at Stony Brook Middle School by 2 students a week ago. She says the attackers made fun of Theo's long hair. Theo is a member of Pimicikamak Cree Nation, and Johnson believes the assault was racially motivated.
Theo told me that one boy approached him first and was telling him to cut his hair. It's disgusting, saying, I bet your parents do effed up rituals at night because your people are so disgusting.
Hanover School Division says it responded immediately and appropriately to the incident. According to division policy, 2 students have been handed suspensions. Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry lists those found to have abused the province's most vulnerable, but families say they are being kept in the dark. CBC's Michelle Allen reports.
She was very, very vulnerable.
Deborah Roach advocated to create Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry in 2013. Now Roach says the registry is failing her nonverbal sister Chris. Chris died in 2020 after an accident at a care home. Roach says a worker didn't secure Chris's dentures properly. The hooks lodged in Chris's esophagus. She had surgery but later died. Roach still doesn't know if the worker involved has been put on the Adult Abuse Registry.
Probably more could have been done at every level.
A spokesperson for the Families Minister said the registry doesn't tell families if the accused abuser is added to the registry or not. Some other provinces have healthcare aid registries that show investigations and discipline. BC Seniors advocate Dan Levitt says this can help.
We should be making sure that we have safeguards in place.
Roach says she doesn't expect the Adult Abuse Registry will ever give her answers. Michelle Allen, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Former city CAO Phil Sheagle will testify again today at the Winnipeg Police Headquarters public inquiry. It's looking into construction cost overruns. Sheagle was asked about his contacts with Armic Babakanians of Caspian Construction. Caspian got the city contract in 2011. Sheagle admitted meeting with Babakanians while the bidding was still going on. He also says he had 2 email accounts, one with the city and one for his own private development business. Sheagle says he never drew a distinction between the 2 accounts and did send emails related to city business from his private account.
In retrospect, I should have concentrated, and again, to avoid any conflict, it should have been one and not the other. But again, my bad. That's the way I operated.
The inquiry saw a private email from Sheagle to Babakanian saying he had good news right around the time Caspian won the bid. There will be no public inquiry into how lengthy hospital emergency room waits have contributed to recent deaths. But Manitoba's health minister says the province is willing to share results from a critical incident review into the death of Stacey Ross. The 55-year-old died last month. On 2 separate occasions, she waited hours in the ER, suffering chest pain. Uzoma Asaguera has directed St. Boniface Hospital to bring in an external, out-of-province expert to address the family's concerns about transparency.
The key findings and the recommendations from the critical incident investigation will be made public with the support of the family. The family is at the heart of this process. We want to make sure, again, that all of their questions are answered in full.
Ross's family has called for a public inquiry. Well, hitting the ice in memory of a northern dog musher. The annual Jimmy Custer Memorial Dog Race, bringing some of Canada's top mushers to Denair Beach near Flin Flon this past weekend. Jimmy Custer's son organizes the race each year. Musher Mo Ladessour says the race is a way to pay tribute to a man the community held in high esteem.
And each and every person that's at this race either has dogs that have the lineage from Jimmy or they learned something from Jimmy along the way, and it's nice for everybody to come out and support such a great race.
Many of those same mushers will be in the Paw this week for the World Championship Dog Race and Northern Manitoba Trappers Festival. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, here's who doesn't have to mush off to school. School closures because of the weather situation, and these divisions are completely closed. These following 9. Prairie Rose, Red River Valley, Borderland, Garden Valley, Prairie Spirit, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Western, and Southwest Horizon. Also, Assiniboine College, Brandon campus is closed at least until 11:30 this morning. They will reassess. In the Mountain View School Division, there is a school on, but the rural bus routes are all canceled. In Beautiful Plains, same thing. School is open, but buses are not running. Brandon School Division not running those rural buses. And the following schools are closed: Alexander, O'Kelly, and Spring Valley. In the DSFM, we have school closures as well in Saint Lazare, Aurel-Lemoine, Gilbert-Rossé, and École Régionale Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes. So those are individual schools closed. And finally, bus cancellations in the DSFM in La Source, Jour-de-Plaine, Saint-Jean-Baptiste, and Réal-Bérard. So that's what's going on. Now, this system is complicated a little bit, and it's going to be slow. And so to give us the details, we have a special guest in weather. Our weather specialist from CBC is Riley Lachuk, as you likely know, and he's actually come in early, almost on what's going to be a busy day. Thanks for coming in,
Yeah,
Riley.
you bet. And I mean, the thing is, this is a drawn out system. So I wasn't expecting us to wake up to that full 15 centimeters this morning, right? Like, this is going to take us some time to get
So people
through.
waking in Winnipeg going, woohoo, it missed us.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not the case,
Yeah.
but we are somewhere between, how do we describe it? Jubilation
Yeah.
and disappointment.
Maybe some people might be a bit disappointed.
We're
I
still
was trying
shoveling.
to prepare us for expectations yesterday on Up to Speed, for example. But yeah, we are looking at things continuing through the day today. Certainly worse as expected west of the city throughout the morning hours so far. I'm just looking at some of the traffic cameras. Snow-covered highways. Looks like visibility is quite poor on the Trans-Canada near Carberry or so at the moment. So that's sort of the situation to the west. As expected, I mean, Winnipeg on the eastern side of the main axis of this system as it pushes through. So certainly I'm expecting us to be still on the lower end of that 15 to 25 centimeters in Winnipeg and into southeastern Manitoba, and into the Whiteshell, for example, likely only about 10 centimeters. So that's sort of the situation right now. The snowfall warning remaining in place, pockets of up to 30 centimeters. That's particularly in the west along the escarpment, in the higher elevations around the Duck, the Riding Mountains, where we'll likely see some of that enhanced accumulation. But certainly I'm expecting snow to continue throughout the day today through much of southern Manitoba. Tapering off through the night, but still into some light snow in parts of the province tomorrow morning. Still looking at some scattered flurries as we get through. Even into Friday morning, I think a few scattered flurries into eastern parts of the province lingering as the system kind of stalls out over northwestern Ontario. So generally speaking, looking at closer to that 25 centimeter mark in western Manitoba, Morden-Winkler, sort of on the edge of that into Emerson, but more like, 12 to 15 through Winnipeg and through much of the Inner Lake as we get through the next 36 hours here.
Okay, thanks very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
So let's get in now to Riley, of course, filling in for Abby just for here. We'll talk to Abby later. But right now we are turning to Corey to talk more about what he's heard in the roads.
And yeah, like we heard, really, it's going to be just in the west where there might be some issues with the drive along the Trans-Canada around Carberry, as we heard from Riley. There might be that poor visibility. Other than that, though, I haven't heard of any major issues here in Winnipeg on the roads and highways, bike lanes. But if you do see something going on, you can give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
We got this, Manitoba.
We got it.
We can handle a slow mover.
Oh, yeah.
Next on the show, earlier this month, the Canadian Medical Association released some results of their annual health and media tracking survey. They polled 5,000 people in this country, and they asked questions around where they get their health information and who they trust. According to the survey, 65% of Canadians reported encountering false or misleading information about their health issues. Despite that, though, 89% of Canadians surveyed said they continue to go online for health information. With his thoughts on the results and for some ideas about how to get good quality information when you go online, we have our medical column next with Dr. Raj Bhardwaj. Hey there.
Good morning, Marcy.
Were there any results from this report that caught your eye in particular?
Yeah, 3 things stood out for me, but the whole report really is worth a read. They've got a nice little flip book or PowerPoint that you can go and find. But first of all, 2/3 of people saying that they encountered false, misleading health information online that they know of or that they recognized. I feel like that might be higher in reality. Second thing, 39% of Canadians said that they had used an AI platform to treat a health issue, but only 27% of people said that they trusted AI for health information. So I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect there, and I wonder if people are underreporting how much they do sort of trust AI, maybe more than they're willing to admit. And then the third thing, people who reported that they followed health advice from AI were 5 times more likely to report that they had experienced harms compared to people who didn't look at AI. So things like their medical condition getting worse, or anxiety around their potential diagnosis, potentially misdiagnosis as well.
Do you ever see false or misleading health information online yourself, or see patients maybe who mention something that they've seen that is false?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that one of the problems is that it's not like black and white, true or false, right? It's a spectrum. There are some things out there that are, they're just wrong. But there's a lot of things that are not quite accurate, or, kind of true, but it's an overgeneralization, things like that. And obviously I can't go and, give you examples of every single thing that I've seen in my doom scrolling, even in the past couple of days. But there are a few patterns, right? So one red flag for me is this idea that if you do one simple thing, it'll change your life forever. I mean, we're always looking for simple solutions to complex problems, but to say that everybody with back pain needs to do one stretch and it'll always fix them is just, that's not accurate. Or that if you're worried about dementia, that if you walk backwards every day, you don't need to do anything else. But there are so many videos out there that try to promise simple solutions for complex problems. And then the other red flag for me is this idea that, there's a thing that doctors don't want you to know, but this person's going to tell you. No, we want you to know all about your health. But we also realize that we all can't be experts in everything, right? If you're a teacher, if you're a nurse, whatever, there are going to be all sorts of things that you know about your field of expertise that I will never know. And that's okay. You are an expert in being you, and your doctor is an expert in health and medicine. And, together, hopefully we can make a good team. But remember that AI is not really an expert in either of those things.
Are there better ways to use AI to get answers about your health if you are going online, though?
Yeah, I think that there are. I think the big thing to remember is that, look, AI programs are just tools. And with any tool, the results that you get with the tool depend on how good you are at using it and also how well suited the tool is for the task that it's being used for. Right? So, I mean, you can use a screwdriver to butter your toast. You might not get great results compared to using a butter knife, right? And so for right now, I think many of us are not experts at using AI tools. And right now, AI is not necessarily a great tool for diagnosing and managing health conditions without oversight. I don't think it's there yet. So I would say that if you're going to use AI, a couple things, like don't just go in sort of looking for confirmation of what you already think. Go in with an open mind and sort of ask it the right questions. And it's hard to know what the right questions are, but the idea of, I was just talking to somebody else who said, oh, I just looked online to see if I broke my tailbone. And I said, what happened? And they said, well, I slipped on the sidewalk while I was walking. And I said, did you Google, I slipped on the sidewalk? And what's the risk that, like what are the things that might be causing my pain? So Google doesn't know you, and it can't really know you like your doctor can. And it doesn't necessarily ask the same questions in the same way as a doctor might to try to get to the answer. And so sometimes it's hard to force AI to not jump to conclusions. So just be wary of those things.
If only 27% of people trust AI, why do you think that people are still turning to it for information?
Yeah, I mean, they asked that question in this survey. 80% of people said that it was the fastest way to find an answer, right? Not the best way to find an answer, not the way to find the most accurate answer necessarily, but it was fast. There was also a report from ChatGPT just recently that said 70% of health-related searches happen between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that's when doctors' offices are closed. That's also when people have time to get on their phones and look, right? But a huge percentage of people don't have access to a family doctor. I think that's part of the problem. And ideally, we shouldn't have to choose between, having a doctor or going to a walk-in or an emergency department or going online. We could sort of do both, but access to a family doctor is a tough problem. It's going to take time and money to solve that. So I think that when they repeat this survey next year, we're going to see even more people using AI to answer their medical questions.
Before you go, what do you tell your patients then about searching for health information online?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people that they should go in with a degree of skepticism to look for consensus between legitimate sources of information. Places that cite their evidence or reference their studies or whatever. Also look for Canadian sites. This report mentions that potential false health information coming from the US was a particular concern for 77% of people surveyed. So maybe look for Canadian sites that are vetted for accuracy, right? So Canadian Pediatric Society, Diabetes Canada, your provincial health information site. Another good resource is good old Wikipedia. That's a good example of a crowdsourced, amount of information, generally well referenced, not perfect for sure. And then the other thing to remember is if you're doing this on your phone, you've also got a phone in your hand. 811, right? That's available 24 hours a day. It lets you speak to a real human who can ask you real questions about your real self and guide you hopefully better than AI can. So I don't mind people, telling me that, yeah, I Googled my symptoms or I asked ChatGPT or whatever, and then I decided to come in. I think that's fine. I think they often don't tell me that unless I ask them. But I'm okay with people doing that as long as they sort of do it well. Because I think it speaks to their curiosity, their concern about their health. I think it's good to be curious. As long as you realize that the answers that AI gives you will be directly related to the quality of the questions that you ask it, how much it knows about you, and how well it is suited to the questions or the answers that you're trying to get. And a lot of times we can't know that sort of stuff.
All right, Dr. Bardwaj, thank you.
My pleasure.
That is our medical column with Dr. Raj Bardwaj. I found it very interesting that he cited Wikipedia as a imperfect, but actually a source that he might consider. So wondering whether or not you go online, and if you do, if you've ever run into some trouble, you can always weigh in by reaching us at the show.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
Well, news coming out of the Olympic Games is all around this curling controversy. I'm sure you probably had a conversation somewhere. Curling's such a big sport in Manitoba. We're going to find out whether or not allegations of cheating with our men's and women's squads there are casting a shadow over our teams, but also what impact the so-called double touch is having on the game. We're going to talk to a sports reporter who says he hasn't heard this called in 20 years. Here we are talking about it at the Olympic Games. We also hit the street yesterday. Our community reporter did, our reporter in unit, Jim Agapito did, to find out from you where this is landing on your radar. He was actually over at a local curling club. Very interesting. Some people saying, well, if it doesn't redirect the rock. However, if you do touch the rock and it changes direction. So it is a thing. It is a controversy and it's a talker. So we're going to get into it here after 8 o'clock on the show. It is -3. It's lightly snowing. Ramadan Mubarak. If you are today on the first full day of Ramadan, of course, then you'll be fasting and such. So we'll watch our friends and neighbors get into this special month. It is -3. We also are watching what's going on with the storm system. And that storm system is going to be bringing us still the same snow we expected. Riley Lachuk, weather specialist, saying on the lower end for Winnipeg, expected in those 15 to 25 centimeters. You might drive to work today and think this is fine. But remember, it's a slow-moving system, so it's not all coming at once, which will ease the shoveling. Probably just more shoveling more frequently rather than that big, heavy dump we get sometimes. However, different situation. More snow in the west. Visibility, some challenging visibility conditions around Carberry this morning. And overnight in Morden, we had 13 centimeters of snowfall already as well. Well, next on Information Radio, a local family-owned business is hoping to sprinkle some of their Manitoba-made spices down south. Wild West Seasonings is based in Headingley, Manitoba. They sell all kinds of seasonings for meats and fish and even Caesars, the classic Canadian cocktail. They've got a product called the Caesar Teaser. Two of the company's owners are down in Mexico as part of the Manitoba delegation visiting the country on this big federal trade mission that's going on. Dallas Schwartz is one of the co-owners of Wild West Seasonings, and he joins us now actually from Guadalajara, Mexico, and we're grateful you can be with us. Hey there.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us. So tell me why you wanted, from your company's perspective, to be on this trade mission.
We were just looking to expand our products internationally, and when Canada Trade program came along, it was just the right fit for us at the right time. So we're really excited to be down here.
Well, I was on your website this morning looking at all the various seasonings and such. How long have you been growing your company?
Since 1994.
And what are your primary markets? Have you been into Mexico before?
No, we haven't been into Mexico before, but our primary interest on this trip is to bring our powdered tomato clam cocktail mix down here because the Mexicans are big with their beer and clam. So we're hoping to tap into that market.
What does this mean around the U.S.? Obviously, this is one of the largest trade missions because companies all across the country are looking to pursue Mexico and other exports. Tell me a little bit about how your business in the U.S. looks and how it's changed.
We actually never did break into the U.S. market. We're just still trying to do that, and that just hasn't happened for us yet. So we thought we'd try Mexico instead right now.
What kind of conversations had you had? I understand you were trying to break in specifically in Dallas.
Yeah, we were trying to
Or
break
pardon
into
me,
the upper.
your name is Dallas, and I'm looking down at
That's
this.
right.
Tell me where you were trying to break into, Dallas.
We have a distributor, and we're looking to take our jerkies and sausage seasoning to the upper Midwest of the United States. And it just hasn't happened yet, but we're still going to keep trying, and hopefully there'll be some interest in the future.
Is that to say there's not interest now? What have you heard from the U.S. markets?
I'm not sure that there's not interest. We just haven't really pursued enough of it to get it in there. And our product would still fall under the CUSMA program, so there'd be no tariffs or anything on ours. So we just are waiting for a trade mission to U.S. to try that one.
So what does it look like down in Mexico then? What kind of meetings are you having? And where do you actually go when you're down there?
Minister LeBlanc has set up a great trade mission down here, and they actually set up our own meetings with other companies down here. They source the companies and find them, and they source companies for food, just the companies that sell to the grocery stores down here, food distributors, and they set up the meetings and they provide the translators, and they're really great meetings, and it's a really great program to be on.
For a product like yours, what's the dream of where it would land up? Would it be grocery store shelves, or what sort of would be a really big score for you?
Yes, if we could get our Caesar Pleaser into like the OXXO stores that are in the convenience stores and everywhere in Mexico, and everyone could grab their powdered tomato clam mix, that would be the dream location, would be the OXXO grocery stores.
Can you sell, right? I'm thinking about Mexico, so I'm thinking through a Canadian perspective about, we often escape to the warmer climate to go to a resort or such. Can you sell a product like yours directly to a resort, or are there distributors that deal with resorts?
Yeah, that would be distributors that deal with resorts. And currently right now, what happens is the Canadians are packing our Caesar Pleasers in their suitcases and just taking it down themselves.
And so that's obviously something you'd like to do as well. Do you expect to sign any deals on this mission, or is this about creating relationships, Dallas?
Right. To start with, it would be creating relationships, but we've already got some really strong interest where as soon as we get back, we have to send some sample products down so they can start presenting to their customers and get this rolling.
How did you know that the Caesar, aspect of what you do was going to be the product that you want to sort of identify, that you knew there was a market there?
That's the Mexican cheladas. So it's known to drink with the beer and clam, and it's really popular in Mexico. So, and all of our Canadian travelers that come down here too, they always talk about the cheladas, and it's just a natural fit.
For Wild West Seasonings, this has been a family business for you for years, as you said. Have you tried going into this market before?
We've tried years ago, but it was really difficult because there was no translations. We had gone to trade shows before and had interest, but without Canada Trade putting on a big show and providing the meetings and the translators, it was a little difficult. So this was a much better setup than we've ever had before.
What kind of impression do you think that Canada is making with, as you said, a bigger show this time around?
Oh, this is a really big show. We had a meeting with the ministers, and there was at least 700 people there with 240 companies from Canada and lots of buyers here in Mexico and store owners, and it's a really good show.
So you've had some promise so far. In terms of the reaction to your specific product, you meant obviously it sounds like it's going well if you've already going to be sending samples down. What other reaction have you had from those there?
Just very positive, and they're very happy to be working with Canadian companies right now. We've got 3 more meetings set up here in Guadalajara for tomorrow, and we'll see how those meetings go. But it's a great reaction from everybody we've talked to from Mexico. It's really wonderful.
How do you get on this mission, Dallas? Do they tap you, or do you actually submit to try to go?
We belong to some associations in Manitoba, like the Manitoba Food Processors, and we're on the mailing list, and we find out through different things. And we've been working with Natalie Beaudry from the World Trade Center in Winnipeg and Brad Havaspeck from World Trade, and they reach out to companies, and we're always in touch about what programs are available.
Well, fabulous. I know you're part of a bigger delegation from Manitoba, speaking of which. Before you go make us jealous, what's the weather like there today?
Today it's sunny, and I think we're expecting a high of 31 here.
Okay, so you're going to have some people back here deal with some shoveling for you, I think.
Yes, I'm told that.
Take care. Thank you very much for telling us about your business and your hopes moving forward.
Right on. Thank you so much for having me.
That is Dallas Schwartz. He's in Guadalajara this morning, one of the co-owners of Wild West Seasonings, and part of a larger trade mission, one of the largest we've actually sent down. A lot of Manitobans represented, and the larger trade mission down in Mexico, looking at business opportunities there. Right now in Winnipeg, as I mentioned, coming up after 8 o'clock on the show, we're going to talk about curling. We're going to find out whether allegations of cheating are casting a shadow over Canada's teams. We'll also find out what Manitobans think about the so-called double touch rule and the impact it has on the game, and whether or not this rule is something that we should keep in curling. How does that actually work? What happened here? We have issues in the weather, as you expected. We have light snow falling, really light snow. It's -3, pretty calm actually in Winnipeg this morning. Across southern Manitoba, more active in the western and parkland regions. This system with 15 to 25 centimeters of snow is still in play. On the lower end for Winnipeg, though, it was warm overnight. Some of it fell as rain, so it's kind of changed it a little bit. But remember, it's through today and through tomorrow as well a little bit. So it is still going to be coming. You'll need the shovels. We're going to Heather Wells now for a look at headlines.
Good morning. Well, families of abuse victims are calling for more accountability from Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry. Gail Johnson's mother was one of the 15 care home residents allegedly abused by workers in 2022. Court records show a healthcare aide was referred to the registry by August of 2023. Johnson says she was never notified. February's I Love to Read month, and it seems more Winnipeggers love to visit their neighborhood libraries. The City of Winnipeg says annual library attendance is up 28% since 2022. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
School closures online. You can check it out at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Now it's 1 minute to 8 o'clock. Stay with us.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. Chris Bowers is an acclaimed composer and pianist whose Oscar-nominated scores include Green Book and The Color Purple. He'll be here to talk about the career advice Kobe Bryant gave him that he still carries, and why working on his new film, GOAT, felt personal and freeing.
And so it was a really fun challenge.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Chinese electric vehicles are wildly popular in many countries around the world, including Mexico, and now they're coming to Canada. We're in Mexico City, and we'll take a Chinese EV for a test drive and hear what they mean for Canada's auto sector, coming up on The Current from Mexico City.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Mark Zuckerberg will testify today at a high-profile trial in California. He is the head of Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And this is his first time appearing before a jury to address allegations his social media platforms harmed children and teens. The landmark trial is focusing on social media addiction. Willie Lowry is in our Washington bureau. And Willie, tell us more about this trial.
So this case really centers on one question. Did social media giants Meta and Google, through their various platforms, create intentionally addictive and harmful apps for children? The plaintiff in the case, known only as Kaylee or KGM, and her mother have accused the tech companies of intentionally creating addictive platforms that caused her to develop a host of mental health issues, including suicidal thoughts. Here's Matthew Bergman, a member of KGM's legal team. He says KGM, who is now 20, was a child when she started using social media.
She got on social media when she was 6 years old, and through the dangerous algorithms and through the addictive design, became highly addicted to social media and developed body dysmorphia, depression, anxiety, and to this day continues to suffer from mental health harms as a result of the deliberate design decisions that these companies have made.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify later today. He's appeared before Congress many times to address the safety of his platforms and even apologize to families of people negatively impacted by social media, but this will be the first time he appears before a jury. Meta says it disagrees with the allegations in the lawsuit.
This is being called a landmark trial. What is at stake here?
So this is the first of more than 1,500 other pending lawsuits to go on trial. The results could have profound implications. If the jury sides with KGM, the plaintiff, it could set a precedent for how social media companies are held accountable and potentially cost them billions of dollars in settlements.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Late Show host Stephen Colbert is taking another shot at his soon-to-be former employer, CBS. He is accusing the broadcaster of pulling one of his interviews out of fear of the U.S. federal regulator.
I'm just so surprised that this giant global corporation would not stand up to these bullies.
Colbert interviewed Texas Senate Democratic candidate James Tallarico, but it did not air on television. Colbert says CBS lawyers raised concerns about an FCC rule requiring equal airtime for political candidates.
There has long been a very famous exception to that rule, and that exception included talk shows, interviews with politicians. We looked, and we can't find one example of this rule being enforced for any talk show interview, not only for my entire late-night career, but for anyone's late-night career going back to the 1960s.
CBS says it did not prohibit the interview. It only gave legal guidance, but it has been accused of caving to political pressure in the past. Colbert's show will be canceled after May 21st. That interview with James Tallarico is now on YouTube. It is not subject to FCC rules. Palestinians in Gaza are marking the start of Ramadan, the holiest month in Islam. It comes amid a fragile ceasefire and devastation from the Israel-Hamas war. Gaza still faces severe food shortages and other critical supplies. Cameron McIntosh has more.
Prayers mark the beginning of the sacred month of Ramadan. In Gaza, the first after 2 years of war. In a market near Gaza City, Ahmad Faraj says nothing feels normal. Many vendors have full shelves, fruits, vegetables, sweets, festive staples of Ramadan. But Faraj says most struggle for the basics. The prices are high for the main products: flour, sugar, cereal, all food supplies. The 4-month ceasefire is allowing food aid in, slowly, but not near enough, driving up prices.
We have managed to push back the threat of famine.
But many are still getting by on just a meal a day, says Sean Hughes, country director for the UN's World Food Program.
We need better humanitarian access. So we need all the crossings into Gaza to be open and to be open predictably.
Right now, no signs of that happening. Despite it all, some talk of chasing Ramadan vibes. Mohamed Al-Najir slices several long slits up and down an old aluminum drink can. Pushing down, it flares out in the middle, a makeshift Ramadan lantern. It makes me happy, he says, despite the war, the pain, the strikes. He's stringing up dozens, being as festive as he can under a precarious ceasefire. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Negotiators trying to reach a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia say today's talks have ended, but some progress has been made. Rustem Umerov is Ukraine's lead negotiator.
Ukraine remains constructive. The ultimate objective is unchanged, a just and sustainable peace.
He says a number of issues were clarified at these U.S.-mediated talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told reporters the negotiations were difficult, but both sides have agreed to meet again. The next big employer in Newfoundland and Labrador could be the defense sector. Industry leaders say the province has been quietly punching above its weight for years. As Ryan Cook reports, the region could benefit from Ottawa's plans to spend more.
We know that the world has changed and that Canada must change with it.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is promising a new path for defence spending.
one that will see 70% of federal defense contracts awarded to Canadian companies within a decade. Welcome news in Canada's most eastern province.
This is relevant for us, and we're ready to go.
Megan K. Fowlo heads up the Co-Innovation Centre in St. John's, a massive 54,000 square foot facility where companies work together to reach scale, including a growing number in aerospace and defense.
Companies in Newfoundland and Labrador are already working in those spaces. We've already developed those capabilities. We have infrastructure in place to be able basically to be ready to respond to what they've laid out.
The federal government projects 125,000 additional jobs in the defense sector as spending ramps up over the next 10 years. About 10,000 currently work in the defense sector in the 4 Atlantic provinces. Victoria Belbin, CEO of Atlantic Canada Aerospace and Defence, expects to see that number grow considerably under this new strategy.
It's a very unique region. We're small, but we're very mighty, and you can see that in the numbers.
For Newfoundland and Labrador, a province with economic challenges and geographic advantages, Belbin says the potential is huge, as long as the commitment from Carney is met with real action. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Some former flight attendants are urging a BC court to reject a multi-million-dollar settlement with WestJet. It is worth $4.5 million. Female flight attendants launched the class action lawsuit. They allege the airline failed to protect them from harassment. Lindsay Duncombe has more on the hearings that begin today.
That's an insult.
Andrea Zimmerman is a former WestJet flight attendant. She is one of 8 class members asking a judge not to approve the deal reached between the airline and lawyers for a class of 3,458 female flight attendants working between 2014 and 2021. Zimmerman believes there are others who aren't happy with the terms.
They're terrified to come forward. They don't believe that WestJet will do anything to make their work safety any better.
The objectors calculate once lawyers' fees are deducted, each class member would receive between $700 and $1,000. WestJet would not admit liability under the agreement. The lawsuit alleges WestJet didn't live up to its contract with female flight attendants by failing to implement and maintain an adequate anti-harassment program. It was launched by former flight attendant Magdalena Lewis in 2016. She alleged the airline did not support her after Lewis says she was sexually assaulted by a pilot on a layover. In an affidavit, she said she had hoped more could be achieved for the class, but agreed to the settlement after consultation with her lawyers and the mediator. In court documents, WestJet said the airline agreed to the settlement to avoid the expense, inconvenience, and distraction of further litigation. The airline also agreed to hire a third-party consultant to conduct a workplace assessment. WestJet did not respond to a request for an interview, neither did lawyers for the flight attendants. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for spending Wednesday with us and starting the day here with CBC's Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. February 18th, stormy. Kind of slow-moving, mild stormy, but still lots of snow still expected. School closures in just a moment. This half hour in the show, let's talk about a winter sport that's gotten a little stormy. Curling is known for cool heads and polite exchanges. It's unusual to hear curlers hurling F-bombs instead of rocks, but that's where Canada has found itself at the Olympics. We're going to take a closer look at the confrontation with Sweden, accusations of cheating, and how our men's and women's teams are now faring in the aftermath of this, so stay tuned. The double touch controversy this half hour. We also asked some Manitoba curlers what they thought of everything that's developing, or what they think, and we're going to hear more about that as well. So these 9 school divisions are closed because of the weather. Prairie Rose, Red River Valley, Borderland, Garden Valley, Prairie Spirit, Fort LaBosse, Turtle Mountain, Western, Southwest Horizon. Rural buses canceled in Mountain View. In Beautiful Plains, no buses, but schools on. Brandon School Division, no rural buses. Alexander O'Kelly and Spring Valley schools are closed. In the DFSM, bus cancellations in La Source, Jour de Plains, Saint-Jean-Baptiste, and Réal-Berard. And in the DSFM, school closures in Saint-Lazare, Aurel-le-Moine, Gilbert-Rossé, and École Régionale Notre-Dame-de-Lourdes. That is the list. Assiniboine College, also no classes on Brandon campus till 11:30. I know I read it fast, but you can also read it yourself at cbc.ca/Manitoba. It's also where you're going to read the latest news, but Heather's here to update those headlines.
Good morning. A Steinbach mom says her 11-year-old son has a concussion, lost a tooth, and had his hair pulled out after an assault at school. Melissa Johnson says her son Theo was attacked at Stony Brook Middle School by 2 students a week ago. She says the attackers made fun of Theo's long hair, and she believes the assault was racially motivated. There will be no public inquiry into how lengthy hospital emergency room waits have contributed to recent deaths, but Manitoba's health minister says the province is willing to share the results from a critical incident review into the death of Stacey Ross. The 55-year-old woman died last month. On 2 separate occasions, she waited hours in the ER, suffering from chest pain. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Quick look at the commute, Corey.
Right now, it's southbound McPhillips at Winnipeg. There's a multi-vehicle collision and emergency crews blocking that median and middle lane. That's southbound McPhillips at Winnipeg. So keep right to get around that. Maybe some backups today.
Abby.
That low winter storm still sweeping across southern Manitoba this morning. Some regions already getting the snow coming their way. We're looking at about 30 centimeters accumulation, but Winnipeg should be seeing 5 to 10 centimeters when the system sweeps through. Right now, -3.
Well, let's keep sweeping into this story. As I mentioned, tempers flaring on Friday in a curling match between Sweden and Canada at the Winter Olympics. Canadian curler Mark Kennedy even dropped the F-bomb when a Swedish player accused him of touching the stone after he let it initially go.
Darren Tesmer, I think they should have let it go. It didn't affect the path of the rock.
I haven't done it once. You can off.
You haven't done it once?
I haven't done it once.
Okay.
I'll
show you a video after the game.
CBC's Jim Agapito went to the St. Vital Curling Club here in Winnipeg to see what Winnipeggers thought of all this.
Darren Tesmer, I think they should have let it go. It didn't affect the path of the rock. And did he touch it? Might have touched it, but I don't think they should have called it.
Brian Crow. Well, I didn't see the when it happened. No, I did not, but I did see the replay. Well, obviously he did touch the rock. So, yeah, it happened.
Bruce Bashford, I don't think it was of any importance, even if he touched it after the blue line, because he couldn't move the rock at all. You know, he was just one finger.
Jim Warbeck. I think it's not an issue. I can't see. It's a rule, yes, but touching the rock like that, it doesn't affect its motion.
Henry Schroeder. There are rules, and if the touch happened, obviously that kind of touch that I observed wouldn't affect the rock. When there are rules, you have to follow them.
If this had happened in one of your league games, what would you do?
We would not be. We wouldn't worry about it at all. It was so minimal, you wouldn't worry about it too much.
Well, we're a lot more relaxed here, and I think we would tease each other about it. I think most people would just say, "Hey, you know, Jim, just watch."
Nothing. Nothing in this league. We're seniors, and there's a little bit of give here.
We would laugh. What are you doing touching the rock after you let it go or something? We certainly wouldn't see it as something serious, no.
What do you think of how the Olympic judges handled this in a situation like that?
Well, I think they handled it horribly. It's still a gentleman's game, and I don't think they needed to be involved in it because it really didn't affect the flight of the rock, or the path of the rock.
I believe they brought it to his attention, and that didn't happen again as far as I was concerned.
At least they've taken some action. And I was actually surprised to hear this morning that they had again reviewed how they were going to handle it going forward. So I think that's good.
Well, we had a situation here today where somebody was accused of going over the hog line, and what I suggested to the other skip was that he get his people to stand by the hog line and report back to him what happened.
So in that situation, do you think the rock should have been removed?
No, because it came later. He didn't complain until after.
Well, the Canadian team used some strong language after the Swedes mentioned this. What do you make of his reaction?
Yeah, I thought he overreacted. I understand why he was reacting like that because he's very intense. Some of us get intense during the games, but I thought he didn't need to speak out like that, and it didn't need to be on film to begin with. But I thought, he could have calmed down a little bit, and it wouldn't have been such an event if he didn't use the language.
People have to control themselves, and that is uncalled for. Yeah, I'm disappointed in Kennedy.
Well, I thought he overreacted. And from my occupation, I didn't use it, but I've had people use it at me, and I didn't get too excited. It's a word that's being used regularly now, even on the internet and on the press.
Well, it's a little over the top, but I think this day and age you hear a lot of that in sports, especially hockey, not other sports. There's people swearing all the time.
Generally speaking, curling is considered a gentleman's game. Generally, it's played that way. If you touch a rock, you immediately admit to that, and so on. So we have to admit it. I mean, that's the way the game is played. And in this case, Kennedy considered what was said to him, which I didn't hear, as questioning his integrity. Well, no one likes their integrity questioned. And for him to get really annoyed by that, I understand. His response to that, his profane response to that, was unfortunate. I'll put it that way.
So those are some Manitobans over at the St. Vital Curling Club talking about the, quote, double touch controversy, as people are calling it now. Greg Strong is with us next, sports reporter with the Canadian Press. He's in Cortina. Hi there.
Hello.
So I just need to be really clear here. This is a rule, right? If you touch the stone, even if it doesn't change the trajectory of the rock, that you're not supposed to do that, correct?
Well, the day after this happened, World Curling, the sport's governing body, sent out a statement clarifying the rules and what potential violations could be had here on the curling ice in Cortina. And they made it very clear. The touching of the stone by the finger or the hand of the curler on the granite part of the rock is illegal. So the double touch, and that's what Oscar Eriksson had an issue with. He felt two of the Canadian players were letting go of the handle, which is the first touch, and then touching the stone again. And it'd be a violation to touch the granite.
And you're saying two players because this spilled into the women's game, correct?
He felt two players on the Canadian men's team were doing it. That's what he voiced on Friday night.
And how did it spill into the women's game then?
Well, because World Curling put out its statement and also said it would be beefing up the umpiring presence on the ice near the hog lines, which is where the curlers release the stones. And in Canada's first game since that change was made, Rachel Homan was playing Switzerland, and her very first rock was pulled by the umpire who was stationed at the hog line. She was incredulous at the decision, just like couldn't believe that it was happening, denied that it was double touched, and was as hot as I've ever seen her in the interview room afterwards. So an unusual situation. She went on to lose that game by 1 point in an extra end. And World Curling later backtracked the next day and went back to its original umpiring setup.
So let me ask you this, because I'm a golfer. The ball moves. It's a very serious thing. You know, you're not touching your ball unless you're on the green. I mean, very serious. We heard from Manitobans just now. Some of them are saying, well, even if they did, there was a touch in the replay. Maybe if it looked to us like there was a touch that was ruled no touch, it didn't change the trajectory of the stone. Nobody really calls this. You know, it's So what are we really talking about here? Is this a rule in curling that we either shouldn't have, or is this a rule in curling that people look the other way if the rock doesn't get changed by a double touch? Should that have happened?
Well, frankly, I think a lot of curlers weren't aware of this rule, even at some of the elite curlers. So it's been a learning opportunity for a lot of people. And to use a golf analogy, it would be kind of like grounding your club in a bunker. You're not supposed to do it. It's an infraction, but are you trying to cheat by that? So that's where the gray area comes in. And when something like that happens in golf, you may ask an official to chime in, or if an opponent notices, they may bring it up. And similar in curling, this is something where the Swedes felt it was an issue with the Canadians, mentioned it to the umpires, and the events unfolded. So it's certainly been of much debate as to how much impact that extra little finger touch on the granite may have. In almost all cases, it's just a grazing of the stone just because the hand is being lowered after the rock is released. But if you really wanted to, you could give it that little extra nudge or try and get it on a different line. But if you have to resort to a double touch to do that, chances are that stone is not going to go where you want it anyway.
Yeah. So what's the buzz where you are in Cortina about whether or not the Canadians did anything wrong? Because when you look at those replays, it's mighty close.
Yeah, it's been a hot topic here since Friday night, and certainly over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it was just a constant in the interview areas, talking to these athletes, and a lot of the Swedish reporters, of course, it's top of mind for them, and there's a lot of interest worldwide. I mean, it's kind of got a little bit of everything, where you've got a gray area rules infraction, you've got discussion on how these rules are being enforced, and then you have a little profane language mixed in a sport that's known for its camaraderie and sportsmanship. Mm-hmm. When you have so many people who are tuning into the Olympics, non-sports fans, non-curling fans, I think they just become totally into it. And it's just one of those buzz stories that you'll often get at the Olympic Games.
All right, Greg, enjoy the rest of the games. Thank you for talking to us here in Winnipeg this morning.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Greg Strong is a sports reporter with the Canadian Press. We did reach him in Cortina to talk all about this. We have Olympic report that is coming up in a couple of minutes from now. And so stay tuned to 89.3.
Have you visited CBC's Being Black in Canada website? It's an online platform to explore the stories and experiences of Black Canadians across the country. A space for news, documentaries, arts and culture, Black achievement in sports, and so much more. Celebrating a uniquely Canadian perspective on Black issues with the cultural moments that matter to Black Canadians. Visit cbc.ca/Being Black in Canada.
The noon call-in between 12:30 and 1 this afternoon is about acts of kindness. So you can call Corey because he's guest hosting noon. You can tell him all about your acts of kindness. We want to be kind and thank the people that work on the show for their hard work. So on today's program with items, we had Marshall Hodgins, associate producer, as well from our news center, of course, Heather Wells, who you hear on the air here, Megan Ketchison and Joni Nicolo in our news center. Our Studio 15 team, Corey Funk and Abby Adiyemi and Darren Marash holding down the fort, and Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson are our producers. And I got to correct myself. I shouldn't use that term, holding down the fort. It's a bad habit. It actually, if you look up the terms of that and the history of that phrase, it's not one to use in 2026 at all. Right now, it is -3 in Winnipeg. It is snowing lightly, and we are expecting this system 15 to 25 centimeters. It's slow moving. Winnipeg probably on the lower end of the snow we're going to get. But we should be pretty good getting around here today. To Westman, maybe a little bit different. Now it is time, though, for Olympic Update from Cortina.
That is a devastating hit. The fact that he even made the finals of the slopestyle event, nothing short of a miracle.
It was not to be for Canadian snowboard star Mark McMorris today. Good morning. I'm Scott Regehr with your Olympic Games report. McMorris crashed on his final attempt in the slopestyle final. He avoided major injury, but could not avoid missing the podium. A disappointing 8th place finish to end the Regina Natives Games. Meanwhile, Canada's women's slopestylers are at it right now. Following their final is my Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik. Sonali, what's the latest?
last run was not a keeper for both Laurie Blouin and Juliette Pelchat. Neither of them had a clean run. Pelchat just completed her second run and missed the landing of her last jump. Blouin also had a tough time on her second run. She couldn't get enough speed on one of her jumps and just couldn't end up staying upright. This is Blouin's third Olympics, and she's the first Canadian to actually win a medal in women's slopestyle, thanks to that silver medal she won in 2018. And she just won her third World Cup title in Aspen, Colorado last month. And just a reminder, there are 3 runs in the final. The best score wins. Both Pelchat and Blouin will have to bring out their best for that last run. In the lead right now is Kokomo Murase of Japan, followed by teammate Mari Fukada and Germany's Annika Morgan. The third run is about to start in a few minutes in Lavino, Scott.
Thanks, Sonali. That's my Olympic report
busy in
co-host,
Lavino today.
Sonali. Aerial skiers were also competing for medals. Canada's Marion Thénault looked in great form with the best score in qualifying. Former gymnast who only took up skiing at age 17 just missed getting through to the medal round. Well, there's men's hockey to look forward to today as well. Canada facing Czechia in the quarterfinals. Matt Cullen's been calling games for CBC and joins me now. Matt, the Canadians are undefeated so far in Milano. What stood out for you most?
Just how focused they seem, Scott. The Canadian men, it's been 12 long years. It's been well documented. They are hungry for that Olympic gold medal, and I haven't seen Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and the rest of the team look that focused for a long time. I mean, the NHL seasons, they're long seasons, they're a grind, but the way that they're playing right now, it's very difficult to find holes or poke holes in their game. Their power play is working well. All lines are clicking. They're getting some good goaltending. That was an issue coming in, is would the goaltending be up to par with Jordan Binnington, who's really had some struggles this year, but between him and Logan Thompson, they look sharp. But where things could get dramatic, of course, as always, is single elimination. All it takes is for one bad day for some of the Canadians, or a great day for one of the Czech goaltenders, perhaps, and Lukas Dostal, who plays with the Anaheim Ducks. He's expected to be the starter today, and let's say he has the day of his life. It could all end in 60 minutes.
I got to ask you this, because I heard this on the broadcast yesterday when the Czechs were playing. Their best goalie may be the guy that's not playing right now, their third stringer. Tell us about that.
Well, Karel Vejmelka with the Utah Mammoth. He's a terrific goaltender. He's played very well this year, but doesn't have the same international experience. But yeah, it's been a very puzzling question to see that they've rotated in Dan Vladar with the Philadelphia Flyers and Lukas Dostal, both good goaltenders. But the guy who leads the NHL in wins has so far been sitting in the press box.
Bit of a head scratcher for sure. Big day in hockey. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt.
Thank you.
CBC Olympic hockey commentator Matt Cullen. Canada's lineup for that quarterfinal has just come out. Forward Sam Bennett and defender Josh Morrissey are not in it. Both have been dealing with injuries. Meanwhile, in curling.
Italy playing for the blank. Have they missed it here? Oh, my goodness. Wow.
A tougher match this morning for Canada's Brad Jacobs than he might have expected. It's tied 3-3 with Italy right now in the fifth end. Good thing Jacobs has already qualified for the medal round. The same cannot be said for Canada's women's rink. Rachel Homan also faces Italy today in a game that starts at 10:05 Pacific, and she's still trying to get a spot in the Final Four, which will get her into the medal round. So we shall see there. And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It is -3. We're still waiting for the snow here. We are under a snowfall warning in southern Manitoba and a blowing snow advisory for western Manitoba. It may be taking its time hitting Winnipeg, but a Montana low is still bringing snow. Chris Stammers, Environment and Climate Change Canada, says warm temperatures last night kept any precipitation that fell as rain.
Kind of on the eastern edge, and what ended up happening is we had a fair bit of freezing rain last night that kind of lowered snowfall amounts for last night. A lot more warm air with this system than was forecast.
Stammer says areas to the west were hit with snow, though, and by 6 this morning, Morden measured 13 centimeters. As the snow starts to fall in Winnipeg, Stammer says this city can expect between 5 and 10 centimeters today, with more through this evening and into tomorrow. A Steinbach mom says her 11-year-old son has a concussion, lost a tooth, and had his hair pulled out after an assault at school. Melissa Johnson says her son, Theo Osborne, was attacked at Stony Brook Middle School by 2 students a week ago. She says the attackers made fun of Theo's long hair. Theo is a member of Pimachikamak Cree Nation. Johnson believes the assault was racially motivated.
Theo told me that one boy approached him first and was telling him to cut his hair. It's disgusting. Saying, I bet your parents do effed up rituals at night because your people are so disgusting.
Hanover School Division says it responded immediately and appropriately according to division policy. 2 students have been handed suspensions. Well, families are calling for more accountability from Manitoba's Adult Abuse Registry. Gail Johnson's mother was one of 15 care home residents allegedly abused by workers in 2022. Court records show a healthcare aide was referred to the registry in August of 2023. Johnson was never notified. She says families shouldn't be left in the dark.
I feel like my mom is being victimized all over again, and the care home let her down as well. And now the process and the government has let her down. So it's heartbreaking.
The Families Minister would not provide an interview, but in a statement says the government is working to change the Adult Abuse Registry process. Former city CAO Phil Sheagle will testify again today at the Winnipeg Police Headquarters public inquiry. It is looking into construction cost overruns. Sheagle was asked about his contracts with Armic Babakanians of Caspian Construction. Caspian got the city contract in 2011. Sheagle admitted meeting with Babakanians while the bidding process was still going on. He says he had 2 email accounts, one with the city and one for his own private development business. And Sheagle says he never drew a distinction between the 2 accounts and did send emails related to city business from his private email account.
In retrospect, I should have concentrated, and again, to avoid any conflict, it should have been one and not the other. But again, my bad. That's the way I operated.
The inquiry saw a private email from Sheagle to Babakanians saying he had good news right around the time Caspian won the bid. Manitoba's health minister will not call a public inquiry into how lengthy emergency room waits have contributed to recent deaths. Uzoma Eseguera says they are trying to get all the answers for the family of Stacey Ross. The 55-year-old died last month. On 2 separate occasions, she waited hours in the ER suffering from chest pain. Her family has called for a public inquiry. Eseguera is sticking with a critical incident review.
I have given direction to St. Boniface to ensure that an external out-of-province expert is brought in to this CI to ensure that the family's concerns are addressed and they are provided the reassurance they need.
Eseguera says the key findings and recommendations from the critical incident review will be made public if the family wants. Mushing in memory of a northern sled dog racer. The Jimmy Custer Memorial Dog Race was held in Denair Beach near Flin Flon over the weekend. It bears the name of a renowned northern musher and promoter. Jimmy Custer died in 2017, but his son Wally Olson holds the race each winter in his memory.
It's very heartwarming. Obviously I miss my dad a ton. This helps a lot. To hear his name on the radio and on Facebook, to see Jimmy Custer, it means a lot to me that he's remembered.
Some of the racers will head to the Paul this week for the Northern Manitoba Trappers Festival and one of its main events, the World Championship Dog Race. And more Winnipeggers are heading to their local libraries. According to statistics from the city, it says annual attendance to all city libraries has gone up 28% since 2022, and the number of books and other materials distributed by the library has also increased almost 19%. And by the way, February is I Love to Read Month. You can find the latest news. You can read it all on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks for the morning, Heather.
Thank you.
Corey, let's get a final word here on the commute.
Yeah, the only issue actually, southbound McPhillips, right at Winnipeg Avenue there's been a multi-vehicle collision and emergency crews blocking that southbound median and middle lanes on McPhillips. So keep right to get around that.
Okay, and then obviously watch the weather system today, because later coming home, depending on what goes on with this slow-moving system that is still going to bring us snow, you might have to take it easy. Last word, Abby, on this?
Yeah, we're expecting that major storm to really sweep up across board. Some areas might get up to 30 centimeters. Winnipeg, we're looking at 5 to 10 max. But driving home this evening might just be tricky.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, thank you. Thank you for listening to all of us here at Information Radio as well. On CBC, I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app, or you might be watching on YouTube, or you'll see us again tomorrow morning. Stay tuned now, though. The Current's coming up next.